I'm actually not even on screensaver mode. I'm just on me. I'm just starting with me. We're starting strong because I'm 18 minutes late to the stream. So, come join us over on Purple Stream on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. If you're interested in politics and you want to learn more, come join us. Today we're going to be talking about current events. So we're going to be looking at the news, what's going on in the news, hi Tab, and looking at everything from a left-wing perspective, an actual left-wing perspective, not this like weird Democratic Party bullshit that they try to tell us is left-wing. No screensaver, just me, because I'm so late and I feel so bad. My partner played a show last night, so I'm a little sleepy. I've been kind of off this week. Hi, first time chat. Hello, Mel-May. Hello, Bell-Bell. Hello again, Tob. God, I hate the acronyms. The GDR. Oh, I'm your favorite landlord. Nice. Love that. Gay people in the phone. Haley. I don't have any book recs on the GDR, actually. I bet people in the chat do. I bet people in the chat probably do. I feel like we have some people who know about the GDR more in the chat than I do. Hi from TikTok. Okay, so you guys come join us over on Twitch. I'm on Twitch. That's why you're confused. I'm on Twitch right now. Come join us over there. That's the real stream. This is the pre-stream where we let you know we have a real stream. And in the real stream, we are able to pull up documentation and evidence to show you the things we're saying, so you don't just have to listen to somebody say it and believe it. And we're going to talk about current events today, and we're all going to do it together. So come join us. No, I don't know why you guys think Lennon said that. Come join us over on our Twitch stream, and we'll talk about the news today. I don't know, the news, I'm pretty interested. There's a lot of stuff happening in the news right now. We're going to have an actual Q&A section that will be timed, where you can ask me individual questions. Just so you know, Star Wars Hour. Virgo, the Virgo peeps are here. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hello. Burger Reich Raid. Okay, hi, yeah, come. Okay, so it's twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. What. So just like my username here, but with no underscore. Okay? So if you come join us over here, we'll be talking about the news. And there's also a ton of backlog stuff. We read left-wing political theory over there, too, so you can learn about what these words actually mean. Because, like, a lot of people say the word fascism. They don't know what it means. You don't actually know that fascism is a unique and specific political ideology with its own set of economic and political circumstances. They don't know what capitalism is. They think it's commerce, right? You have teenage left comms running around the internet telling you that Karl Marx hated the state and nobody should ever listen to Engels. I mean, it's just kooky, you know? These people are kooky. So if you come over, we look at actual materials together. We read through them together. We go straight to the primary sources whenever possible. And I think you'll probably enjoy it, I think. Virgo Reich. Virgo Reich is vastly superior to Burger Reich. Virgo Reich, if you will. The Virgo Reich. Yes. The video was good. Yeah, I think it was pretty good. I liked it. I liked the conversation we had about religion and socialism yesterday. Hello, first time chat, hyena spots. You don't like Virgo Reich? You don't like that? You're not into that, Virgo? Okay, fine. Right to self-determination for Virgo stream. You're not a Reich. You're anti-Reich. Oh, I wasn't mean enough for Fuck Off Friday, actually. I didn't fuck off enough with my Friday. Oh, bummer. I'm supposed to be mean to you guys today because Friday. We really don't have the energy because I was out a little bit late last night. It was kind of a friendly Friday. I mean, it was like a neutral Friday. I'm sure I called somebody stupid. I did get one live restriction for bullying, but just one. So, you know, yeah, it was bratty Friday, exactly. For learning about the USSR, check out my entry-level reading list for left-wing politics. You'll find some good stuff. Cooked Brat Friday. Exactly. Poland Friday, yeah. Okay, so you guys come join us over here. Twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. We will be talking about the news. It will be enjoyable. How many people do we have in real chat? It's probably not very many. I just want to hang up with them so bad. I just want it to be just us. 149. Oh, we can do better than that. Okay. All right. We'll wait a little bit. Okay, so you guys, sorry, I'm not making sense because I'm talking to the Twitch stream. I'm talking to the Twitch stream, not you. So if you came to the Twitch stream, it would make sense for you. What's going on over there? Yeah. Well, here's what's going on in Burger Reich. Well, Stalin was a totalitarian fascist. That's a real comment going on in Burger Reich stream. You know what, Leanne? I actually don't have anything about Poland specifically in my reading list. Do I love Tom Steyer? No, I fucking hate Tom Steyer. The fact that Tom Steyer has managed to rebrand himself as progressive tells you everything you need to know about the Democratic Party and its utility. Tell him to fuck off. Okay, but we're okay. It's just so much energy, and I'm so low energy today. Yeah, it's crazy. Tom Steyer's a psycho. Tom Steyer is a psycho. I know, yeah. Virgo, not. We got to come up with a new name because it's just going to become Virgo Reich forever unless we come up with a new name for it right now. I'm already starting to call it Virgo Reich. He's bad. We got to come up with a new name for it. Your mom is getting married today? Yeah, you need a new name immediately because it's already starting to take hold. You got to nip this thing in the bud before that's just what it's called. It happens fast. Republic of Virgo. The ROV. The ROV. That's funny. The ROV is funny. Are we allowed to call it the ROV? House in Virgo. Somebody's just saying, hello, see Charlie Kirk. Okay. Yeah, Sammy's a ding dong. Sammy's been in my comment section for days too. Oh, Sammy was the one that got banned from our Twitch stream for being a literal Nazi. That's who it is. Sammy, the literal Nazis in the TikTok stream. That's funny. Yeah, so for those of you guys in TikTok stream, that guy Sammy got banned for being a literal Nazi from our Twitch stream. Here, though, you know, it's important to see what they're saying. It's important for us to know what's going on in Ding Dong Brain. Ding Dong Brain of the far right. Yeah, Sammy's in the TikTok chat. Yeah. He got banned from here for being too much of a Nazi. DPRV is good. DPRV is good. I like DPRV. Are you allowed to praise Charlie Kirk in here? No. Actually, we kill you if you do that. You get executed immediately. It's like TikTok gulag. We TikTok gulag you, the communists of TikTok. We execute you. It's sad, actually. Your family's going to cry. They're not even going to know what happened to you. We're going to come for you in the middle of the night. We're going to abduct you from your home. Gulag style. Well, that's it. Haley Akari's got to go. Okay. I'm gonna end it here with you all. It's been weird. As always, it's weird. It's weird. But if you actually want to learn about the world, come join us over on our Twitch stream. We talk about what's going on in the world. We give an actual analysis of it, not this like ding-dong Democrat Republican carnival of idiocy that you guys are used to. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. So come join us, and we're going to talk about politics from an actual left-wing political perspective. Come join us, twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. I'm ending this here, so come join. Yeah, well, the live's just beginning, actually. This is the pre-live. This is just what I do while I eat my breakfast and do my makeup. So come join us. Come join us. I'm going to hang up. Okay, bye. Twitch.tv. Twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. Okay, bye. All right. Hey. I couldn't do any more of it. I'm pretty low energy today. Pretty low energy. Okay, I'm hydrating. Yeah. What's up, everybody? How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Oh. TikTok about DPRK using AI missiles. Yeah, we're going to have to watch that for sure. You had an industrious, productive night. Nice. My partner played a little last minute mini show. It was really cute and fun. And then I made a joke in front of a bunch of strangers and nobody knew what I was saying. And then it was really embarrassing. But I thought it made perfect sense. But they all thought I was crazy. We were talking about LA versus New York. And they were like, I don't know. New York's so hot right now. Everybody's moving to New York. And I was like, no, LA is about to hit. LA is about to hit hard because we're in the middle of the skinny apocalypse. Everybody really wants to be skinny. So whenever people really want to be skinny, they also really want to move to LA. It's like a thing. It's like you become right wing, you get super, super skinny, and you want to move to LA. And I thought that made perfect sense. But they were all like, what? And I was like, you know how it's like the skinny apocalypse right now? Like everyone's on Ozempic and it's like Ozempic core? And they were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, okay, It's the thing. It's like, it's like Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow. It's just like everyone wants to be like really skinny, and then they're like, maybe I'll move to LA and be skinny there because it's really warm in the summer and I can show off how skinny I am all the time. And it's like their idea of LA is like be skinny, apolitical, and do a bunch of drugs. But no, they didn't know. I thought everybody knew about it too. I thought everybody knew we were in a skinny apocalypse. But they didn't, and they thought I was a crazy person. So now we know. I think I made sense. But one of them maybe finally got it, and they were like, "Well, just for that, I'm going to get you fatter." And I was like, "I think you should. I think that's very punk rock to do. I think if you want to get fatter, now's the time to do it. Like, we have a moral obligation during the skinny apocalypse to not lose a pound. That's our ethical duty during skinny apocalypse." But everyone get fatter and gayer now, and more left wing. Immediately. Yes, thank you, Weep Corps. Thank you for your service. Yeah. Okay. I thought it made sense. Fat, gay communism now. That's what we need. Yeah, dirty bulking. Thank you. You guys get it. All right. Okay. Well, they didn't. So, if you were at an electronic show last night, talking to me in an alleyway, I'm sorry for you thinking I'm crazy. I see now. Fat hose to the front. Love it. It's great. Okay. All right, everybody. You're already child size. If you lost weight, this is my thing. I'm like, I already got to wear kids' clothes. I'm trying. I'm working on it here. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm trying. I'm really trying. My partner makes... It's a stupid saying. I don't listen to a lot of electronic music. So whenever I talk to her, like, my partner makes psytrance. I think, maybe. They make. I think. Fuck, that might be wrong. What I just told you. They might not make psytrance. They make. It's some sort of electronic music. They use hardware. And it's like, I think it's psytrance. I think that could be it. It really, why else would I know that phrase, what that phrase means? Unless that's what they do. I don't know. But their music name is CRTR, and it's everywhere if you want to listen to it. I think it's good for that. It's that kind of music, and I can tolerate it. I'm like, oh, okay, yes, this is fun. You can dance to. Okay. So it's a bunch of burner heavy. So my partner's not a burner heavy. My partner used to, like, I don't know, make like shoegaze and like grindcore, was like huge into grindcore, and then was like, I can make beat boop, and then just started making beat boop really aggressively, which is cool. There's a lot of genres. CRTR. It stands for Can't Read the Room. But sometimes people think it stands for critter. That's pretty funny too. Yeah, dying fetus. Yeah. When grindcore, right? Yes. So yeah, I think it's good. Movement. So my partner has been to movement. I know about this because of my partner. Not this year, but other years. Yes. Yeah, I can't read them because they're autistic. Yeah, they're like. And then they'll show up to, and I know not a lot of people make the same genre of music they do, because they'll show up to like other cool kid events where they're making like evil techno, like, where the guys stand around and they just go, that thing? They do that, and then my partner gets up and it's like, yay! Like, beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, 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 beep, boop, 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 like that, and then everyone's like, oh, yeah, so it's like that. It's good, right? It's good. I think it's good. So it's, yeah. And sometimes they do sets with this other person who goes by Slime Beach. And when they play together, they'll do like a back-to-back together. It's so good. That's like my favorite. And whenever that happens, everyone loses their minds. So whenever those two play together, Slime Beach is also good. You can probably find her up on like SoundCloud and shit like that. I'm sure she posts her shit up there. It's really good. I use they, them pronouns. People are going to cancel me for this. You can't explain why. Well, it is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. They them pronouns for me. Yes. Yes. Also, I've told you, speaking of being gay and they themness, I think I told you all that my partner is dressing less and less professional at work, and they're starting to grow their hair out, which is a big deal because they have a very blue collar job. And one of so they're growing their hair out, but they've been wearing like a hat, like a baseball hat every day, and being like kind of undercover still. And yesterday they went to work just with like beautiful, beautiful flowing curly hair and no hat. And I guess one of the guys was like, one of the old men was like, "You kind of look like a woman." And because my partner usually presents very masculine at work, but not usually in normal life. And then my partner was like, haha, nice, cool. But then it was like, why? And dude was like, well, your hair's just like all like long and like looks like a woman's hair. And so then my partner got to be like, yeah, you look bald. Are you losing your hair? Are you going bald right now? Like, are you losing your hair? Which is funny because obviously we don't care if people lose their hair, but you could tell this guy was very, very into his masculine identity. So my partner was like, I really feel like it got to him. I really feel like he's not going to mention my hair again. I was like, yeah, what is a win? Yeah, shut him up. Now you can do whatever you want with your hair. Because usually when my partner is not on this job, their hair is like mine. Like, if I look at old pictures of them, I'll like compare it to me at the same time. Like we literally have the same hair, like little bangs and like little braids, But yeah. But that guy knew right away. He was like, there's something different about you and I can't figure out what. And that's been really interesting experience my partner I think has had at work. A lot of people are like, there's something different about you. So at first they're like, you're a gay man. And then my partner is like, brings me around sometimes and they're like, no, not a gay man. What's going on? So they're really racking their brains, the blue collar guys, trying to figure out what's up. And also because my partner's like, yeah, I fucking hate liberals. They're like, MAGA. And my partner's like, I fucking hate MAGA. And they're like, what the fuck is happening with you? What are you? So they can't figure out a non-binary communist, which is very funny. How do you feel if people call you he, him? Yeah, I don't care, honestly. I don't mind. I'm pretty fine with any pronouns whatsoever for me. I prefer they, them politically, but I don't mind a he, him, because that also has political connotation. I recognize, especially when I present this way, and I appreciate the political connotation of that. Yeah. Gender does break people's brains. They cannot figure it out. They know something gay is happening, but they can't figure out how, which is very, very cool. You can call the dude all the time in your comments, yeah. I think that's also really interesting too. Like how we've gendered, how we've gendered language. I'm super interested in how we've gendered things like language, food. This is another thing, gendering of food. Because I think I told you guys my ex was a man, like a dude, like the most, and it was so funny because I told people I'm dating like a man, like he's like a man. And then I would be like, he's like so butch, he's like a man, it's crazy. And that's who I dated for 10 years, adore him still. But people would meet him and be like, this is the most butch masculine person you've ever dated? And I'd be like, yeah, he like plays sports and stuff. But to everybody else, he clocked very, very feminine, and I didn't see that. But whatever. So when we would go out to like restaurants, he loved to eat salads. Like he would eat these foods that have been gendered very like feminine in our society, and I eat foods that have been gendered very masculine, I guess. Like I'm vegan, but I'll be like, like burger, kind of like fries, like a lot of fried foods, a lot of heavy foods. And he'd always be like, I'll have a salad. And every single time they would bring our food out, they would always put our food in front of each other. It was like a thing. Like every time we went to the restaurant, we got each other's food because the food had been gendered. And people saw me and they were like, salad, your salad gender and your burger gender. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then also with language though, there is a whole thing where like the type of language you use has been in many ways, in many cases, socialized into people based on their gender. So you can tell just from people's comments as well from that, too. Maybe fries gender, yeah. Fries gender, yeah. It's very interesting. It is very interesting, everything that comes along with it. And that's why for a while I had a friend who was like, no, I'm like non-binary and I'm only dating non-binary people from now on. I just don't have to deal with it. And I was like, you can do that. And then I was like, I'm going to do that now. And so, yeah, now both my partners are non-binary. And I'm like, this is way easier. Yeah. Okay, have you seen Influencers Hawes' hilarious tweets about gaming? No. That's the guy who didn't know how many holes a person with a vagina has. Right? Yeah. Okay, you're both, NBA is non-binary, right? Yes, okay. more mask presenting your partner. They're a cocktail drinker. I usually drink beer. Oh, your drinks always get swapped. Yes, exactly. Exactly that. Yes. This is the thing. Yes. Your dogs get gendered based on their size. Two Holes Haas. That's his name. Two Holes Haas. Oh, it's so funny. They closed gender. We've infinite holes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Haas said coming out to your partner's transgender is so insane. What an insane person. Like, he's fucking people. They're crazy. Well, yesterday was National Burger Day. Well, I fucked up. I made lentils. I do love a lentil. I actually feel like that is a non-binary coded food. I feel like lentils are a non-binary coded food. You switch being femme and butch. T for T non-binary. Yeah. I mean, so that's the thing too, is like you guys have only seen me on the internet probably the past 5 years or so. But I'll switch. Like, I present very feminine right now. Before that, I presented like gay goblin. Like, I had shaved head, never wore makeup, like was very like, goblin-y. So it does switch. So I've told my partner Bobby that before. I've been like, oh, there's going to be a point where you're not on a job and you and I are just going to switch. And like, you're going to be girly pop with like the bangs and the hair dye and the braids. And I'm going to be shaved head goblin core. Like, and it's going to be cute. It's going to happen. Yeah, I go gay goblin core fast. It's very easy for me to fall into that. So it's cute. It's cute. Anyway, okay, we've NB maxed. Should we get into the Q&A? Let's get into the Q&A. All right, so for those of you who don't know, what we do at the beginning of our stream is we do a 10-minute Q&A, and you can ask anything during this period. It can be about politics, it can be about me, it can be about anything you want, and what happens is I just start at the first question I receive, and I read them in order until the timer runs out. So I won't be able to see anything you message while I'm answering questions, because you guys end up further ahead than I am. So I'm going to get 10 minutes on the clock, so if you've got a question ready, start now. Do I want kids? No, I would never like to have kids. I've never wanted kids. How do you handle OCD when looking up these topics? You have OCD as well, and sometimes you feel yourself spiral by looking up too much horrible history. So this is interesting. I've never really thought about what I do in connection with my OCD. But I guess it does make sense that it probably is affected. That's not something I've ever personally deconstructed, though. Very, very fascinating. I don't know. Yeah. Something new to think about. Favorite chickpea recipe? Yes. So I usually make a chickpea curry, and I make this like really lazy chickpea curry. I have an Instant Pot, but you don't need an Instant Pot for it. My best friend got me an Instant Pot years ago, and I'm obsessed with it. So I'll do onions, garlic, ginger, and if I have any veggies, usually like broccoli or something like that, and I'll do it on saute mode, and then I'll throw in a can of diced tomatoes and a can of drained chickpeas, and then I'll season it, like turmeric, curry powder. I'll put in a little bit of cardamom or allspice, usually some sort of like soy sauce, something like that, for saltiness, etc., spice it up. And then I'll do it in the Instant Pot, and then when it's done, I'll depressurize Instant Pot and throw in a can of coconut milk and then serve it over rice, and it's a curry and it's really, really good. And if I have basil, I'll throw in fresh basil at the end with the coconut milk too. And it's really easy. It only takes a few minutes to do. And if you were really lazy, you could use garlic, and you can use jar ginger, which I sometimes will buy jar ginger just because I'm like, this is so much fucking easier. And skip the onions altogether, or just do onion powder, and then you wouldn't even have to cut anything, which is like the goal on a weeknight. To not have to cut anything, just throw it all in a thing and hit a button and it's done. So good. Okay. What's going on in Myanmar? Your teacher was talking about their dictatorship and also relating to China, and your USA bells went off. So what's going on? You know what? Full disclosure, I have not kept up with Myanmar, Burma, probably since the early 2000s. There was a huge issue that was going on in Myanmar, Burma in the early 2000s, because I remember our textbook still had the wrong country printed. But this is something I've kept up with. So that might be something interesting for us to look into. If it's current events related, I'll try to find that and put that forward as my rec for the day, because I've not kept up to speed. But I bet other people in the chat have. So we'll probably have some good info on that. I've not seen I Love Boosters yet. Oh, this is something you guys might not know about me. Neither me nor my partner like going to a movie theater. We get like sensory overload. So like I went and saw the Cuba documentary in a movie theater. I held on okay. My partner was losing it. So like just like sounds get really weird to us. Like my ADHD kicks in. I get really, really fidgety, and I know I'm ruining it for everybody. My partner can't stand the sounds of people eating popcorn around them. So we usually will wait for things to come out, and then we'll watch them like at home. But we went to the Cuba movie IRL because that was something my organization helped participate in. What kind of men did Lennon like? Was he a twink guy? You know what? We all know Lennon was a wife guy. We respect his straight identity, actually. We're hashtag allies for Lennon's straight identity as a wife guy. The gayest of all ways to be straight, arguably. I'm just going to put that out there. Do I know Audrey Kitching? I have met Audrey Kitching, I believe. I think I've met Audrey Kitching. But I don't know, actually, if I've met her. Here's my interaction with Audrey Kitching. So Audrey Kitching was a scene queen, for those of you who don't know, during the original Warped Tour scene days. Same era as me. Audrey Kitching and Hannah Bath. So I would be at the same things as them. So basically they would be kind of like groupie girlies for the really cool bands. And I would sometimes be like a groupie for like the sketchy, weird DIY shitty bands that would get invited to Warped Tour and then get kicked off for like ruining everything day two. So there would be situations where I would be backstage at Warped Tour with some random, obviously trans person who we did not have the language to explain that they were trans, right? So just like gender fucked, sketchy, dirty kid and me, like, right? And then they would be like the celebrities of backstage Warped Tour. They would be like the beautiful people, and then we would be like the sketchy dirt troll people. So I would see them places, but I didn't know them then. Then later on, Audrey Kitching became a fashion blogger. At the same time, I was fashion blogging during the lookbook.nu days, the blogspot days, and we started following each other. And we would talk a little bit online, if I remember correctly. I could be making that, but I think that's what happened. And I don't think actually we did ever meet in person. So then later on, I started doing creative direction work for alt brands around LA. And I booked Barbie Beth, to model for a brand that I worked with a lot. And her roommate later became one of my really, really good friends. So that's still one of my good friends, Sarah, her roommate, who now lives in New York. But yeah, so Barbie Beth, I definitely have met her and interacted with her, especially in a work capacity, like taking pictures and stuff like that for brands. I don't actually think, maybe I haven't actually met Audrey Kitching IRL, but we've talked on the internet to each other back in the blogging days. Okay, sorry. Civ video review on TikTok when? Oh my God, nobody would watch that. Nobody would watch that if I did that. Would they watch that? Could I become just a Civ live streamer? Is that a thing? Because that would be peak. I would quit my job to become that. Dialectical materialism really helps Josie. Yes, I think so too. That's why I logic my way through everything. How do we introduce these ideas to people in a small town? How do I find people in a small southern town? You'll find that if you just talk about issues that people care about, you get really, really far. So one of the things I found really helpful when door knocking is don't lead with a point, ask and listen. So when I door knock, it's probably the same thing as you're talking to other people. Will be like, what are like some things you think are weird? So Lily Igla, who if you follow on Instagram does great work, she says when she's on a bus in Chicago, sometimes she's sitting next to strangers, she'll just be like, isn't it crazy everything happening in the world today? Like, isn't everything crazy? And they'll be like, yeah, it's crazy. And then she'll be just like what have you been noticing? What have you been tripping out on? Like, here's what I've been tripping out on. And that's how she'll start talking to people about politics. For door knocking, I'm just, there's more of a context for it. So you can be like, yeah, I'm just going door to door and like asking people in your neighborhood what they're concerned about, that they feel like maybe regular politicians haven't been paying attention to. I'm a volunteer on these campaigns. We just want to get to know you guys and know what matters to you, basically. So you could do something like that. You could be like, oh yeah, I'm like with this socialist org. What do you, like, what's the stuff that bugs you? Like, we're just here to help people. Like, we care about people. What's the stuff that upsets you? And give people a chance to talk to you. And that actually goes a really, really long way. So how do you discover gender identity? You can't figure out mine, but it feels irritating not having anything to tell people when they ask. I went through that too for a really long time. I think because I'm older as well. People didn't say they were non-binary very often when I was growing up. Like, I never met a non-binary person until, like 2017 or something like that. And it was really hard for me to work through gender as well. I think I told you guys, like, my friends knew something was weird about me, but couldn't figure out what. So they would often joke that I was like a drag queen. I wasn't like a real girl. I was like a drag queen, or, these kinds of things. So I would say, don't feel pressured to figure anything out. It's okay to not know. And it's okay to tell people you don't know. It's okay. Just be like, I don't know. I'm working on it. So take your time with it and don't be too hard on yourself. Thoughts on Hoja? I don't have strong feelings on Hoja. And here is why. I don't have strong feelings on any derivation of Marxist-Leninism that is Marxist-Leninism, just applied to a specific country. And the reason is that I'm not experiencing the unique conditions of that country at that time period enough to be able to get in the weeds about it. My general position is that I'm going to support a socialist project. That's my general baseline position. If it's a socialist project, I'm going to support it. Every socialist project is going to do things I don't love, but I'm still going to think that's better than a capitalist project, right? So Hoxha is the same thing. I have a lot of feelings about Tito and Hoxha and Albania and Yugoslavia and Greece and all of that situation. It just kind of annoys me. But it also annoys me that the USSR split with China, that the USSR split with Yugoslavia during these things and couldn't work it through. So ultimately, after I realized I was majorly wrong to critique the Dengist reforms in China, I gave up trying to get in the weeds at any one leader. It was just like, what, hands off, I support socialism. And that's going to be my position. So, I mentioned kulaks on TikTok. I feel like your college gave you loads of wrong info about them. What do you know about them? So, yeah, somebody once had a tweet that was funny that was like, I think that people think kulaks are like an oppressed ethnic class or something. Kulaks were just the name for the what they called the rich peasants, which is basically the farm owners. And if anybody's grown up in a farming area, farm owners can be very, very, very rich. So these were the capitalists. They were landowners and business owners in tandem. They were capitalists who owned farms. And they didn't want to collectivize with the USSR because they were capitalists, and they were like, "We're not going to collectivize because we won't make as much money." So during the time of collectivization, when the USSR was new, rather than collectivize, they started slaughtering their own cattle and burning their own crops out of protest. And that meant that people couldn't use them as food. And then, a huge famine hits, which this area is known for famine. They had cyclical and regularly recurring famines. The kulaks knew what they were doing. And then it's like the next year, a massive famine hits. Well, guess what? All that food that people could have been eating, all the cattle that could have been there, all of the crops that could have been blooming or, at this time, like ready to harvest, gone. Because the kulaks politically would rather destroy food than give it to people. And even at that time, to give it to people at a reduced rate of profit. So the USSR did prosecute them for this. And we have court records of them taking these people to trial to atone for what they did. So that's how we know how much this was affected. Okay, I'm scrolling to the future. Okay, hi everybody, I'm here. Hello. How do we do? How did we do? We're okay? All right. Hi. All right. That was a successful Q&A. Gay. We did gay. Okay, cool. We decided I need to become a Civ streamer. I've tried to watch Civ streaming before when I was trying to figure out how Twitch worked, and it was so boring, and there were only like 12 people who watched it. So I just kind of I think Civ's too boring to stream, right? Same with the Kurds. A lot of liberals and conservatives think they're some sort of anti-Muslim people. Average conversation with a YPG fighter about gay rights during Ramadan will give you a clue. It's no surprise they think kulaks is a race. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I think too, the Kurds are so politicized. Like, they're so politicized. It's kind of like Afghanistan, how Afghanistan would be our best friends and then our worst enemies, depending on what time of day it was, right? We do that with the Kurds as well, which I think complicates that. Okay, I'm reading you guys. I'm catching up. Becoming a Civ streamer? No, but I feel like there's not an audience for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. I don't know if that's Mac compatible and I only have a Mac, but I really, really want that. I wonder if I should just buy a cheap old PC or if it wouldn't even run if I did that. I can't be Mac compatible. It's probably not Mac compatible. I want it. All right. Gaming streams rely more on the streamer than the game. A good streamer can make a boring game into a fun game. Okay. I still should do my fucked up Sims survival mode streaming. Because it is really fun. It's insane. Oh, really? P.O. Box? Do you have plenty of old? I don't. Maybe I should make a P.O. Box. You guys can hear the birds outside? God, my house. It's crazy. Why do I use a Mac? Just because it's easy for me to airdrop things to my phone from my computer for work. Because I do a lot of photo editing for work and then airdrop it to my phone to post it on socials and stuff like that. Don't get a P.O. Box. People will send you things, capital T. What kinds of things? Things bad? Bad things? Bombs? Do you think they'll send me bombs? You gonna send me anthrax? Bad things. Bad things. Okay. Speaking from experience, what are people sending you? Jars of semen. Well, I don't scare easily. Like all of my friends have been sex workers. Again, I grew up on message boards as a 6-year-old pretending to be an 18-year-old cheerleader from Texas to learn about how sex worked. So, I don't scare easily. I can handle a lot. People will send you pubs or pubes. Toenails. Cool. Pubic hair. People are freaks. Whoa. I love knowing how insane people are. This is the thing, though. You guys see, that's why when, like, a weird troll comes in, I'm like, tell me more about that. That's fucking weird. Some freak will send me anthrax. Okay, you're probably right. Yeah. Things I'll make jewelry out of. Collectibles. I will get anthraxed. I will get anthraxed if I have a P.O. box. Probably. Yeah. Children pretending to be 18 on a skeevy forum is definitely a millennial experience. Yeah. I love weird. That's very true. I am very hated by Blue MAGA and MAGA. Like, someone might send me a copy of Techno-Feudalism. Me with the body keeps the score. Oh, you're doing that in your Zoomer. Okay, universal experience. Transcends time. Okay. Should we get into the news? You've never? Oh, you've totally never. Okay, like, wait. I'm too global. Let's get into the news. Let's get into the news, guys. What do you think? So, is there new news about Myanmar? I'm gonna get 59 copies of Holocaust Heroes' book, probably. Anthrax was this powder that during the War on Terror, when good God-fearing white Americans were convinced all of the Muslim Browns were going to assassinate us in our sleep or something because they were jealous of our freedom, we were told there was going to be a widespread epidemic of brown Muslim people mailing anthrax to good God-fearing white people's homes to kill them. And anthrax was like a powder that when you opened would go everywhere and then poison you. So white Americans were really going around thinking the terrorists, which was just code word for a Muslim brown person, we're gonna mail them anthrax. Anthrax is a powder Colin Powell invented to make America hate Muslims. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, people were fear-mongering so hard about this. Also, for those of you who weren't around in the period after 9/11, this shit was so wild. Everyone thought everything was going to get bombed by the terrorists. Nobody had any functional understanding of why 9/11 happened, who these people were, what was going on. They were just like, the terrorists hate us for our freedom, and they're going to kill us all. So, like, I had relatives who were like, the terrorists are going to bomb Fashion Fair Mall in Fresno, California. And I was like, babe, the terrorists do not know Fashion Fair Mall in Fresno, California exists. Okay, I think you're good. I think you could go to Bath and Body Works. I think you're going to be fine. The petit bourgeois mind is always scared of something. Yep. Not Fashion Fair. I know. Fashion Fair Mall. As an ex-Muslim, yes, we hated you for your freedom fries. An unprovoked attack. Exactly. It was just crazy. The freedom fries was kind of like a banger moment in peak Americana in retrospect, but at the time I felt crazy. Yeah, they don't know about Greater Fresno. It is an international beacon of culture, that's true, but we're too free. We're so free. That they can't be taught about us, actually. Because if everybody knew how free Fresno was, there'd be mass uprisings. People would start demanding that same level of freedom from their governments. And then what would happen? Fresno fries, really. Fresno fries. Okay, so, I think anthrax was affected by the anthrax scare, if I remember correctly. Wait, there was a 9/11 cheer? No. No. Stretch. Yes, Iran is going to bomb California. The terrorists are going to mail Muslim to your home. Mail Muslim to your home. Mail anthrax to your home. The Muslim terrorists are going to mail anthrax to your home. The Muslims are going to bomb Fashion Fair Mall. Yeah. Yup. Okay. Whoa, high school cheerleaders' controversial 9/11 dance routine. Okay, we gotta look at this. Come on. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. Hold on. Go. Here it is. This is so cool. A high school cheerleading team from Texas is defending a 9/11 dance routine that some say is insensitive. The Lumberton High School cheerleading team performed a 9/11 tribute to Lee Greenwood's song God Bless the USA on September 11th. The audio also included sound bites from people who witnessed the terror attacks and former President George W. Bush. Oh my God. The video was posted on Facebook. God bless Facebook. God bless Facebook. We're going to watch it.
Freedom will be defended. Oh my God, another plane has just hit. Some of the casualties are in the collapsed building and buildings around the World Trade Center. I'm told that it's just a scene of rubble and other devastation.
This country will rebound, and what can you say? The situation, there's just not a lot we can say.
This is something that's affecting everyone directly.
I ask the American people to join me in saying a prayer for the
That was so cool. Yeah, this is the best chat submission ever. they were going to make a tower. For a minute there, I really thought it was going to happen. That was amazing. The backflips during the 9/11 audio, 9/11 calls to 911, and they're doing backflips during it. Just, wow. Someone in the chat was like, can you imagine if fucking North Korea did something like this? We would be losing it. This is so cool. I love this. See, this is my problem though, is I have like a morbid fascination with the United States is my issue. So like when I was in high school, we had the most racist school mascot of all time. They were called the Fresno Warriors, and it was just like an indigenous person. Let me see if I can find this, actually. I bet I can find it. They might have had to change it by now. Yeah. Okay. So I, as like a child, and like the year 2001, 2002 was like, this is fucking insane. This is insane that this is our fucking mascot. And what's even crazier is when you went to football games, they would give you a pin that said scalp 'em as like I was like, this is crazy. So I started going to football games because I was like, this is the most unhinged shit I've ever seen in my life. I was like a weird punk kid. But this is my issue. I have like this macabre, morbid fascination with the United States because you're like, there's no way we're this insane, right? This can't be real. This is like a parody of insanity. Like, you don't expect this to be something a real country does. And yet, we continue to do the most batshit fucking unhinged things over and over and over again. Yes, I have the same fascination with the United States that true crime girlies have with serial killers. Like, this is my, what's the name of a serial killer? Who's one? Who's one? John Wayne Gacy? This is my John Wayne Gacy. This is my Ed Gein. It's just the United States. And actually the premise for our podcast was, I was like, I want it to be like true crime, but like the government. Like, it's history. It's true crime, it's history, it's politics, it's the government. You know what I mean? So this is my interactions with Americana. Fascinating. I need to start getting the sound effects, like, you know, like, it was 1949, like that. Number one serial killer was indeed Henry Kissinger. Yes, obsessed. Yes. True crime with the serial killer is the United States every single fucking time. It's crazy. So, you know, school near you had the Pawnee Indians, and their mascot was a bright red cartoon. Of course it was. Yeah. The scalp and pins were, though, for me, really just, I was like, oh, and it was 2000, I was class of 2003 is when I graduated, so it was pretty early. So, you know, you remember how everybody was losing their shit in like 2015 when people were like, hey, maybe these mascots are racist. Imagine me in 2001 being like, yo, this is fucked up. And everyone just being like, what? This is so normal. You're insane. It's very, very normal to make an indigenous person a mascot after we slaughtered all of their family and stole their land. It's like, what are you talking about? It was wild. Yeah, the Cleveland Browns, exactly. There's a school out in the desert whose mascot is the Arab. See? Okay, so if you're not from the United States, it's crazier and worse than you're imagining. Whatever you're imagining, it's crazier and worse than that. And my partner does make fun of me sometimes because my partner's like, you grew up like in California. Like, you've never lived outside of California. You don't even know how fucking unhinged it is in the rest of the country. And I'm like, well, I've been around the country like a lot. Like, I've been around the country. Like, I see this shit. But my partner's like, no, you don't know what it's like to grow up in that environment and have that be your normal and then have to try to break out of that as your normal. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair. Like, that is fair. I did grow up in like a gay neighborhood in a city of over 500,000 people. So yeah, very, very interesting. All right. So, hold the vid based on what we read yesterday, Bad Media. I want to watch that, but we'll do it during our poll. Let's get into current events. So I'm going to see if I can find anything really fast about Burma, Myanmar news. You guys chat, start collecting your links now. Don't send them yet. And I'll do the countdown in just a second, for what's going on in current events today for us to talk about. Got some stuff. There's something from January with a civil war. a month ago, 16 hours ago. Okay, I found a story for me. And it is the cost of the Trump-Xi détente will be paid in Myanmar. So this is going to be interesting to me. So this is my rack. You guys get yours ready. I'm about to start the countdown now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Send me your news. Virgo's back. Perfect timing. Virgo, did you watch the cheer routine? Did you see that? Because that was really something. If you missed that, you know, you're gonna have to go watch the VOD for once. Oh no, they're crushing the Bolivarian Revolution. That feels important to me. Okay. Let's see, Bolivarian. I'm not going to open a Reddit link just because it's Reddit, you know, but I am going to look in the news for updates on that. Ugh. Can't call it that, I guess. Okay. So we got Bolivia updates. We have... Why isn't this working? The blue state delusion over unions. Oh, that's interesting. Here in the United States. DHS Secretary Mullen threatens to pull agents from Newark Airport over ICE detention center protests. Iran war updates. Trump says U.S. blockade of Strait of Hormuz to be lifted. I don't know if I believe her. This one won't open for me. I'm so sorry. So I guess we're going to skip this one, but we're going to keep the Bolivia updates there. And that's going to be our 5. So I think we got it. Oh, Russian drone. Oh, this is somebody was asking me about this earlier, actually. The Russian drone in the Romanian apartment building. It seems like just a mistake. Romania accused Russia of a grave and irresponsible escalation after a Russian drone entered its airspace. Okay, yeah, I see this. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. It does seem like a mistake, but it is pretty fucked. Not great. We don't love it. Okay. So I think we're ready. Yeah, let's do the poll, Virgo. I got him for you. We've got Myanmar. We've got Iran updates. We've got ICE updates. We've got blue states here in the USA. And we have Bolivia updates. Interesting. Okay, we have some poll videos. So the poll is going up. Hegel's Big Dialecticals understands American freedom. Are you jealous? Do you hate us for it? Do you want it? Are you jealous? Okay, we have 3. I think there's 3. So I want Ben's also. We have so many videos for the polls. Okay, hold on. Ben actually sent theirs in first. So, but we'll start with cars just because it's up, but Ben also gets priority. Virgo has the poll ready. You know the rules. Voting is mandatory. Vote or gulag. Refresh if you don't see it at the top of your chat. And we have some poll videos to keep us entertained while the voting happens. Kawaii Netanyahu. It worked for Japan. Maybe it'll work for Israel. Not a bad idea. Rebrand. Rebrand. It's so cute. Rebrand your fascism. Wait, the whole video the Daily Mail posted is literally just their headline and then a montage of just North Korea things. Okay, babe, go up. 69,000 likes. This is how the news works now. In 2026, you get a headline and a video montage. And that's it. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I like it. Only communists are allowed to use AI. This is my new hot take. Liberals, feel free to cancel me for it. Only communists are allowed to use AI. I said what I said. I'll defend that claim.
Hola, friends. I'm Dora, and this is my Israeli Defense Force monkey boots. We'll stick to Spanish while your parents are in the room, but the goal is to teach you Hebrew by the end of this season. Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Do you condemn Hamas? Can you find the West Bank? Trick question. You weren't supposed to click anything, Hamas. Oh no, Swiper punched me in the eye and stole my backpack. Was he wrong to do this? I hope you answered no, because the reality is, when you really sit and think about it, Swiper is ex-IDF. And me as a little brown girl, that can really be triggering for Swiper, that can really set Swiper off. He has the right to defend himself. Some have said, Dora, international law states that you can't just rewrite the map and draw on it as you please to decide what is and isn't explorable land for you and your terrorist monkey. It'll result in y'all being wanted by the UN. To that, I say, anti-Semitism. Buenos noches, friends. See you next time. And whichever one of you fucking bitches keep emailing the studio, Eid Mubarak, I want you to look out your window and wave to the Mossad agent, because we already on that ass. Yeah, this ain't...
Virgo, you just talked to DeAndre in the group chat. I love DeAndre. For those of you who don't know, there are so many communist group chats happening on every social media app all the time. All the time. That's why I'm in that cursed one with the leftcom children who don't know anything. I can't even remember what it is. They're always changing names, too. All the time. You can't keep up with them. You can't keep up with them. Okay, we have one from Ghost in This Hell for all the anarcho-langlists. Hit us with it.
To deal with tankies. Zoran Mamdani is a better communist than you.
And this is also interesting. Let me show you a FBI counterintelligence document from 1967. And its stated purpose was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize political organizations the US government considered dangerous. When things like this happen and we see people online obsessively separating and dividing different kinds of leftists into the good, acceptable kind and the scary, contaminated tankies, well, I can't help but think about how important it is to know these textbook tactics from the feds. FBI's COINTELPRO, or counterintelligence program, literally targeted communists, socialists, anti-war organizers, black liberation groups, labor activists, student movements, and civil rights leaders. And if you ever take the time to go and read the documents that are now public today, all of the tactics are extremely familiar. There's the creation of infighting. One FBI directive literally instructed agents to capitalize upon existing conflicts. Something that has always been known is that a divided left is a weak left. They've been trying to amplify ideological purity wars for over 100 years. They turn groups against each other, encourage splintering into smaller groups that all hate each other, and endless debates over who is the good radical versus the dangerous one. Anytime you see people obsessively trying to separate acceptable activists from the scary, contaminated ones, especially for some sort of overall mainstream approval, there should be some sort of alarm bell going off where you recognize this historical pattern. Talked a little bit in the past about how another tactic they used was sexual shame, deliberately trying to embarrass organizers through their relationships, sexuality, rumors, affairs, and personal lives. Scandal tends to isolate people, especially in movements built on overall trust. This is all within reason, of course. There are people who use activist spaces as hunting grounds for their issues and desires. But in general, if people are trying to steer your conversations away from labor, war, housing systems into constantly critiquing or picking people's sex lives or dating history apart, this can also extend into their aesthetics, the way they look, their vibes, if they're cringe. That also might be part of this larger pattern and documented tactic of the FBI in an effort to shame, isolate, and have something to hold against them. Remember, comrades, you can't be blackmailed as long as you're a confident degenerate. But then there's media manipulation. The FBI openly discussed using media contracts to disrupt organizations. They spread fake stories, fake letters, rumors, anonymous accusations, and sometimes they even impersonate activists or pay off the willing. But disinformation works the best when people are already emotional. That's why a lot of the topics that they pick at, whether or not they're spreading lies or grossly misrepresenting a broader historical picture, becomes a lot more complicated and nuanced, because recognizing these tactics or what's behind it doesn't always make the criticism false or not valid. It's being manipulated and used in a rather nefarious way. intentionally. Movements should self-critique. We should be implementing self-criticism. But there's a big difference between principled criticism and content disguised to make people more cynical, paranoid, isolated, or politically inactive. We need to ask ourselves these sorts of questions. Does this encourage organizing? Or is it encouraging hopelessness? Does this piece of media increase understanding? Or are we just seeing humiliation? Does this build solidarity? Perhaps a united front, which is really needed? Or are we turning the politics into social cannibalism? Look, comrades, COINTELPRO worked because people often didn't realize that they were being manipulated while it was happening. But we have the information, we have the history, we have the literal documents, which means we don't really have the excuse of ignorance anymore. Please let this encourage you to be more curious, to read documents like these, to study the patterns, and most importantly, to protect and care for each other. So this is
Okay, I love her, obviously. She's fantastic. I was going to try to see her once when I was in Seattle. It's on Instagram. I was like, wow, I can't believe it got that many likes on TikTok. That's so cool. But yeah, I guess Instagram, that makes more sense. I found that people actually, like, videos do not so bad on Instagram. I need to be posting there more. Okay, this is good research for me. But yeah, so something interesting is that the person who made that original video, the Tankies Are Evil video, Sims Book Talks Badly, actually became my mutual when I was getting canceled by liberals for not voting for Kamala Harris. And so we're mutuals. And when I saw that video, I actually DM'd them and was like, hey, I saw this video. I see it's getting a lot of backlash in Marxist-Leninist community. And people are really mad at it and making a lot of content about it. I'm a Marxist-Leninist. I became mutuals during this time, and you were very respectful to me, and you stood up for me, and it was a great display of coalition building. I was a little bit surprised to see you make this video, basically. But, in good faith, if you would like to have a candid conversation with Marxist-Leninists about why we believe what we believe, I'm open and available to talk to you about some of these things. And they actually responded, and they were like, yeah, I actually have a lot of questions. So I've been now in dialogue with them for a few days, talking about issues and their perception of Marxist-Leninists and like tankies and what it means to be tanky and why. And it is interesting. And I was like, look, I know I'm not going to convert you to be a Marxist-Leninist. And they do have a lot of hostility about some things, understandably. But I was like, I can give you reading material. I can put you in the right direction to learn more about this. And like my goal coming out of this is for you to understand why we believe what we believe. You don't necessarily have to agree, but to really understand what we believe and understand why, for us, making a video like this, demonizing communists, especially at this point in time, is scary because anti-communism gets people killed. And not just communists, right? It gets people who are suspected of being communists killed. It gets people who live in regions with a lot of communists killed. Like, anti-communism is a very, very dangerous ideology. And we respond to anti-communism like our lives are being threatened because our lives are being threatened. So that was kind of my take. So I've been talking with them, and they have been engaging in dialogue with me. Right, first they came for the communists, exactly. And, I wouldn't say that they're like, oh yeah, this all makes sense, but we're talking about things, and I think that's really good and positive. So I just want to put that up there. Yes, yeah, I think that, look, like, Sim is in the same position that a lot of people are in when they have left-wing values and they've heard so much disinformation about communism that they actually believe communists are evil. Like, they actually believe we were out genociding people, And to be like, well, we weren't. Like, we talked about the Holodomor, and I'm like, yeah, that was a naturally recurring famine that had happened, and I gave them all the dates of the previous famines, and I gave them stuff that they could look up to, and they were like, okay, I'm going to order some books about the Holodomor to try to learn, and I was like, you also have to make sure the people writing the books aren't being paid by the National Endowment for Humanities, aren't being paid by the National Endowment for Democracy, and that can be a challenge. It's very hard, actually, to find information about the Holodomor that's not, especially if you're calling it the Holodomor and looking it up as the Holodomor and not just looking up, grain production patterns in general in Ukraine and the region going back, blah, blah, blah. Just searching for the word Holodomor will give you biased information on its own. It's hard. So, and we also talked about the gulags, right? Like, they were concerned about the gulags. And I was like, here's really actually something that made me start to question everything I thought I knew about the USSR. So you think about the USSR. The USSR is in a position of mass unrest, right? They've only really been a country for 20 or so years, and people are actively trying to overthrow them. People are actively trying to destroy them. Think about the conditions that happened in that territory before the USSR existed. 35-year-old life expectancy, 35% literacy rate. People are starving to death. People are homeless. People have no access to healthcare. They have very limited food. These things are massive, massive issues going on before the USSR was founded. The USSR comes along, and one person's lifespan brings their life expectancy up to surpassing at one point in the 1950s the United States, right? So you look at that, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, the USSR was saving people's lives, and at the same time, people are actively trying to dismantle them and destroy this. And you know that the destruction of the USSR would be catastrophic, would be deadly, would be a mass casualty event. You know that. And we know that now, especially with the benefit of hindsight of history. We know that when the USSR was dismantled, it was a mass casualty event. We know we saw the single greatest drop in life expectancy ever recorded on the planet during that time. But at that time, they didn't have that knowledge, right? Because the USSR still existed. But they had the understanding of what it was like before the USSR was there. They had the understanding of how bad feudalism was under the Tsar. And they knew that if these people were able to destroy the socialist project that was the USSR, everybody's lives would be plummeted into that abysmal, horrific state of just abject despair once again. So it became imperative then to make sure the USSR was not dismantled at all costs during that time. Now, we look at what their incarceration rate was in the Gulag system, right? During this time. During this period, when multiple people were actively trying to overthrow their government, they were in a great state of political turmoil. They were hanging on, trying to keep this thing together. Their Gulag system, which most people aren't aware of, doesn't just include incarceration. It also included community service. It was just basically anybody who passed through their penal system. So there's varying degrees of punishment based on the severity of your crime, right? You might have to do labor, forced labor. It's literally the same as community service out here in the United States. That's what we call it. When you get convicted of a crime, but they don't hold you in incarceration. You go pick up trash on the freeway. That's community service. That's labor, right? So it's the equivalent of that. So when you take a look at the number of people who passed through their Gulag system over this period of time, I believe it breaks down to around 1.3% of their population was involved in the Gulag system during this period annually. And that includes, again, not just incarceration, but community service, whatever, passed through their penal system, basically. In the United States today, in a time of ostensible peace, you guys can hear Fork, yeah, she's mad at the gardeners. That number is more like 1.6 or 1.7% of the American population that's had to do some form of community service or experienced incarceration. So to me, it was actually radicalizing to learn that even at their peak under threat, right, they had a lower percent of people passing through their penal system than the USA does today in a time of peace. So I talked to Sim about that, and that was actually when Sim was like, well, why do I have to defend either of them? And that's when I was like, well, I guess to me the question is, what's the utility in attacking communists, especially right now? Communists who imagine what the incarceration rates are like when they don't have to deal with trying to be overthrown by multiple people, right? This is them at their worst. This is them at their hardest, and it's still better than the capitalist project. Who does it serve to try to dismantle that, to attack that? Why attack that? This group of people that wants to do well and good and help people, why be a part of the chorus that keeps them with their backs against the wall, right? Putting them on defense. I know yeah. So anyway, that's a conversation I've been having with them. We've been talking for the past couple days. That's interesting. It's interesting. And it might not be, like I told Sim, I was like, I don't expect to turn you into a Marxist-Leninist. I don't even expect you to understand it fully, but to understand us a little bit and see that, like, we are also appealing to humanity of the world. We are fighting for a better future and a material improvement in the quality of life for the people. And I think, like, just going off of that, one of the big differences we run into, sorry, leaf blower, I know, the gardeners, with leftists of other kinds, is specifically that we are not utopian, right? If you think about all the conflict we have with other leftists, anarchists, well, the state still exists. Well, yeah, the state's gonna have to. We're realistic about that, right? Left comms, oh, you didn't immediately eliminate commodity production. Well, yeah, Marx didn't even think that was gonna be how socialism would look most places, not immediately anyway. We're realistic about these things. People who are like, oh, but there's still prisons and they're still fighting wars. Well, yeah, realistically we exist in the planet, and the planet is trying to actively overthrow socialism. We recognize that there's going to be conflict and violence inherent in this process, and we don't love that, but we recognize it's real, right? And we want to figure out the best way to mitigate it and deal with it. All of these things, these people are approaching left-wing politics from an extremely utopian perspective. And when we come forward and we're like, well, we just want to improve things. We just want things to be better. And we recognize that if you are shooting for these completely unrealistic goals, you're never going to get anywhere. You need to shoot for realistic and achievable goals. That's rule number one of goal making for anybody. They tell you that when you make fucking New Year's resolutions, for God's sake. Everybody knows that. And it really does come down to that at the end of the day, that people hate us for having a realistic and measured approach to a realistic understanding based on dialectics, based on materialism of what we can expect, what we're trying to accomplish, and how we get there. And yet we are the ones that get branded as being dogmatic, which I think is funny, right? They're not branded as dogmatic. They have the most dogmatic ideology on the planet. We're somehow branded as dogmatic when in reality the critiques that the left have, other forms of the left have of us, right, is that we're not pure enough in some capacity. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, dream big, plan accurately. Exactly. It's even worse than reform over revolution, people, because revolution will never happen or it will never cease. I mean, yeah, and that's true too. And that's also a form, reform is a form of utopian thinking. Where has reform ever materially worked, right? And the most they could say is the Nordic countries, and you're like, well, worked for who? Not for the global south, certainly. You know, the reformists are also utopians. And they're not leftists, we know that, right? They're more centrist, but they're utopians as well. All these people are utopians. So I just think it is funny where it's like, the reasons people hate us is that we're not utopian, is that we're not dogmatic, we're not all or nothing. There's some very basic principles we think you got to abide by. So there's some basic concepts for what liberation looks like, and everything else we'll work with. We're going to work with it grounded in reality and the actual conditions on the ground where we are, right? And they hate us for that. I just think it's very ironic that how we're branded versus our actuality. The end of capitalism, Maurer says, is supposed to be some fake idealistic future that will never happen. You're not actually supposed to do it. Right. And this is, Mark Fisher, Capitalist Realism. I don't love Mark Fisher, but Capitalist Realism is, a worthwhile read. I think every communist should read it, probably. And that's the whole point of it, though, is that you can't imagine the end of capitalism. So because you can't imagine it as a real thing, you're allowed to invent it being whatever you want, because it only exists in your head. When they talk about these things, they're talking about them theoretically. They're like, well, in my magical utopia, this happens. But we're not talking about a magical utopia. We're talking about things we can actually do materially, concretely, on the ground today that we can make happen to improve everybody's lives right now, right? I don't love Mark Fisher because I think he's a little like Gen X man shakes cane at sky. Like, he's like, the phones gave everyone ADHD and made them have, what's the thing where, dyslexia. And you're like, I don't really think that's how dyslexia works, Mark Fisher, but okay. He's just a little like, I feel like I would fight with him at a bar if he was still alive. You know what I mean? Weed whacker. Yeah, weed whacker. Sorry. But I think he's fine to read. I think reading Capitalist Realism is good. I think it's objectively good. I just think he as a person's a bit insufferable. Welcome, Rice Ball Baskets. You have a friend who met him in a bar? Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like where you meet Mark Fisher. Sorry, they're right outside the window, so we're just waiting. Yeah, today we're going to do updates on Bolivia. That's what won in the news. Very interesting. So I'm so sorry. Bolivia. Hold, please. Oh, yeah, because you guys can't hear if we play a short video. I'll put on the short video.
Now on Midday Live, the latest threat from the federal government could cripple SFO and the Bay Area economy. The Department of Homeland Security is expressing some ideas for plans to stop processing international travelers and cargo at airports in sanctuary cities. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kristen Z.
And I'm Nancy Chin. San Francisco, of course, is a sanctuary city with dozens of flights to multiple international destinations in Asia, Europe, and Central America. The president made that threat months ago, and the DHS secretary has now doubled down in an interview with Fox News.
Some of the busiest airports in the country, including ones in New York, Los Angeles, and Seattle, would also be impacted if these threats are realized. ABC 7 Eyewitness News reporter Zach Fuentes joins us live from SFO. Zach, what is the reaction you're hearing?
Yeah, some of the people, including experts I've heard from, say they're waiting to see if the Trump administration follows through on these threats. Some of them a little hesitant to speak right now while it is a hypothetical. But like you said, the Homeland Security Secretary did speak this morning on Fox News, saying the plans are being drawn up to stop customs processing at airports and cities that won't cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. But as of now, nothing official has been announced yet. Now, we're waiting to hear back from SFO, but so far we have already heard from both San Jose and Oakland international airports, both of them saying they have no knowledge of any policy changes, but they will continue to monitor. Now, since the threats from the Trump administration, the U.S. Travel Association has expressed concern, saying in a statement, quote, U.S. Travel believes such a move would have devastating consequences for the travel industry and communities that depend on international visitation. Now, keep in mind, all this is happening with the FIFA World Cup just happening next month. So again, in addition to SFO, we know that Los Angeles, like you said, New York City, Chicago, and Seattle are also some of the airports being targeted. Now, we are still waiting to hear from SFO officials, like I said, and we also reached out to the San Francisco City Attorney to see if they would be taking any action on this as well. So as soon as we find out more details, we will be sure to bring that to you. Live at SFO, Zach Fuentes, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
58-year-old Eric Bogoni was killed less than 2 weeks ago outside his home in San Francisco's Sunset District. Now startling details of what happened early that morning before the sun came up. Police say they obtained video showing the suspect approach Bogoni's residence in dark clothing.
The suspect then lit a fire on top of a car. And when the victim exited his residence to deal with the fire, the suspect shot the victim in the back using an automatic firearm equipped with a silencer. The suspect then stood over the victim and fired again before fleeing the scene.
San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins says that suspect is 68-year-old Philippe Chagnon. Her office has filed charges including homicide, special circumstances of lying in wait, possession of a silencer, and possession of a high-capacity magazine.
I mean, I saw the pictures. He went there just for that. He had a silencer, he had the gloves, he had the mask, he was spray painting cameras, so there's no doubt about what his intentions were.
Rich Ibarra knew Bogoni for most of his life. In fact, he was the bassist and Bogoni was the singer in their band. Police confirmed that the suspect was Bogoni's landlord.
But my other buddy had told me he'd been having a problem with, but I didn't think much of it, really, honestly. I just thought, oh, some grumpy landlord.
Jenkins has not discussed a possible motive. She says that Chagnon will go in front of a judge Friday and could face life without the possibility of parole. Rich, on the other hand, is remembering his friend.
He was just a great guy, super nice. He'd do you a favor if you needed a favor. If you're having a bad day, he'd turn it around for you and tell you a joke that would make you laugh for the next few hours. It was just really unfortunate loss of a really good guy.
J.R. Stone, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Sorry, I just saw this pop up, and the headline was, SF landlord arrested for murder after allegedly setting car fire to ambush and then shoot a tenant in the back. Absolutely fucking psychotic. So crazy. King of his little castle. Exactly, these fucks. Crazy. There's this, this is going to date me and embarrass me, but there's this band Piebald that I used to really like when I was younger, and one of their lyrics is "Little body, mighty hand," and it's about credit cards. But I think about that line, "Little body, mighty hand," all the time, and it is shit like this, where it's you are so small and insignificant in the world, and you have this king of your own castle mentality, little body, mighty hand, where you can fucking do whatever the hell you want. It's crazy. Can you imagine the word, you get killed by your fucking landlord? Okay, I'm not thumbs up again. I don't know why it's doing that. I'm so sorry. But yeah, just so fucked, man. Jesus. And then the amount of people I know who've been harassed by their landlords, who've been fucked with their by their landlords. A certain friend I had, who will not be named, who became a millionaire and then a landlord overnight, and then proceeded to allegedly just terrorize everybody who lived in the property. It's just fucked. It's just fucked. These people need to be stopped. It's crazy. It's crazy. So just a friendly reminder for anybody, in my link tree, there is a link to, I believe, 3 GoFundMes for people who were terrorized by a hipster musician artist who became a landlord in LA and allegedly fucked all of them over, and they've been struggling to recover now for like over a year from it, and it still goes. So if you've got $5 to throw somebody's way, check out my link tree, find those people, give them $5 or so. They're still dealing with the fallout from this. It's pretty horrible. Pretty horrible. Desperate for power in collapsing world, exactly. Okay. With that said, let's get into the real topic of our news today, which is updates on Bolivia. So, we take a look at this, I believe, last week. What's going on is that Bolivia historically had a more socialist government, and then they elected, I guess, a right-wing leader who was really into capitalism, and things are not going well in Bolivia. People are really not happy about it. So, the people of Bolivia are rising up to demand that the president step down. They're done with capitalism. They don't want a capitalism experiment. They want to go back to socialism. So let's get into the update on this story. Oh, fuck. So we can learn the current state of things. Somebody in the chat, I think it was Hegel's Big Dialecticals, said Brazil is sending the right-wing president of Bolivia money and assistance right now. Is that right? President of Bolivia said, please send help. Lula said, of course, babes. Yep, cucked energy. So, a Bolivian president warns country at breaking point after a month of protests. Bolivia's president, Rodrigo Paz, has warned the country is at breaking point after a month of anti-government protests that have led to 7 deaths and hundreds of arrests. So it'll be interesting to see if they talk about the politics of this protest. Demonstrators led by unions and indigenous groups have set up roadblocks across Bolivia, causing serious shortages of basic goods and paralyzing large parts of the nation. Now, again, we can read this and know what this means. Like, if you didn't tell me these were socialists, I'd be like, labor unions and indigenous groups, oh, these are probably my people. So this is probably a really right-wing guy that the left is trying to overthrow. But if you're just an average person without media literacy, political literacy, actual literacy skills, you would just read this and think it was just a random conflict. Maybe over money or economic issues, but you wouldn't have got that this was an ideological conflict of communist socialists rising up and saying, we hate capitalism, right? And I think that's interesting, because that's why you never hear about the average person who's not a socialist, never hears about people liking socialism. They're like, no, everybody hated socialism, right? And you're like, well, yeah, because when news happens that might inform you that people actually do like socialism, they word it like this. So you don't know it's socialism they're fighting for. So we'll see if they expand on it more or not. But, yeah, a ramshackle group of ideological dissidents. Who knows? Exactly. So groups are calling for fuel subsidies to be reinstated and a rollback of austerity measures, as well as the resignation of Paz. But the U.S.-backed leader, who took office 6 months ago during an economic crisis, said anyone wanting to destroy the nation would have to deal with him and the full force of the Constitution. Paz has been battling growing fury over his center-right policies, with the protests originally triggered at the end of April by a land reform he proposed. Now, again, for Americans in the chat, he probably has the same politics, as center-right politics, as the Democratic Party in the United States. And that is considered so conservative for Bolivia, they are trying to overthrow him, right? Fork is, I think, in bed, but yelling right now. I think she's laying in bed, cozy, but then just screaming, which is very, very funny. This is based on how sound is traveling, my echolocation skills in the house. Yeah, very cute. So some small-scale farmers were worried the measure would make it easier for large landowners to buy up small properties. The government insisted any sale would have to be voluntary, but powerful organizations representing small-scale farmers were not convinced and blocked the country's main highway in protest. So again, just to say this. So he basically wants to do land reform, but in a capitalist direction. So he wants to make it easier for large landowners to buy up small properties. And people are like, that's fucked up. That's going to lead to like monopolization of the land. It's going to be really bad for everybody. So Paz has since scrapped the reform, but by then the farmers had been joined by other sectors of society venting their grievances. The government has also scrapped longstanding fuel subsidies amid shortages and inflation, which in turn has raised living costs and enraged a large sector of the population. Now, again, remember, if you live in a place that's experiencing high cost of living, things like this, a lot of times these are policy decisions, especially if you're not experiencing rampant sanctions, which they're not. So road blockades erected by angry protesters have further exacerbated fuel shortages, creating a vicious cycle. The Bolivian leader has renewed his appeal for dialogue and insisted the country needs order, but has not ruled out using so-called constitutional instruments to end the blockades. Central Committee, hello, welcome. On Tuesday, Bolivia's Congress voted to make it easier for the president to declare a state of emergency and use the military to regain control. Lawmakers who backed the move said violent groups should not be able to dictate the elected government, but those who voted against the measure warned it could heighten social tensions. Paz has previously tried to quell the unrest by reshuffling his cabinet, slashing his salary and that of his ministers, and announcing the creation of a council to negotiate with sectors of society which feel isolated under his government. But so far, these measures have not subdued the widespread anger. It's estimated the protests are causing daily economic losses of more than $50 million nationwide. Okay, wow. So that's what's going on in Bolivia. Now, again, people are not really talking about the political, like this article doesn't say anything about socialism and capitalism, right? I'm gonna show though, we're gonna look into this about what's actually going on. I'm just trying to find an article about it. 1 second. Okay, so this article I found for us going back to this is from 2025 October. So this is from when he won the election. Bolivia ends 2 decades of socialist rule as center-right Rodrigo Paz wins presidency. And again, if you're an American, probably like a Democrat. Bolivians elected pro-business Senator Rodrigo Paz as their new president, ending 20 years of socialist rule and ushering in a promise of capitalism for all as the country grapples with its worst economic crisis in decades. Do you think I should go give Fork a treat? My worry is that she thinks I'm rewarding her for barking rather than trying to silence her. Like, maybe I'll distract her. And we can read this. Give me a second. Give me a second to tend to Fork. The gardeners are very upsetting to her. Bring her here. Maybe I'll bring her here. I'll give it a shot. Hold on. I didn't put it up for you guys. I'm so sorry. You just got to stare at a wall. Okay, well, I'm back. Fork didn't want to come. She ran to her bed where I'm not allowed to touch her. Sorry. Well, you know, no screensaver. Okay, so let's get back into what the news is actually reporting. People treat dog behavior as either punish or reward. They're basically ADHD toddlers. You should divert these. That's what I do. And I never try to give her a treat right away. I try to just like make her do something else. And then I'm like, oh, and also here's a thing you can do to occupy you. I don't know. But I try to get her to come here, and she has the safe bed where it's like when she's in the bed, nobody's allowed to touch her or give her commands. That's like her little, yeah. You do Susie Kim emote? Oh my God, I love that. I'm so excited. Yeah, Zay's here now though. Okay, so let's get into this. So again, just taking a look at how this is reported. A lot of times when people like socialism, it's just reported in Western news as these crazy ethnic minorities in unstable countries are acting up again. Ugh, they're insane. And this is kind of how it's presented, right? We get this image, you know, of a bunch of people of color banging pots and pans, Just random, just when you read this, you're like, well, it sounds like the president was being so reasonable. Why are they so upset? You know, and this is really how it's presented. So this is why so many Westerners do not understand socialism. They do not understand how politically literate the average person in the rest of the world is compared to the average American. You know, I consider myself pretty okay politically in terms of like knowledge, right? When I meet people from other countries, they know more sometimes about California politics than I do. And they live in different countries. So the average person from a different country is so much more politically literate than the average American. Americans don't know that. We have no clue that happens there. So, you know, we get this idea that these people are just crazed, deranged savages of the 21st century, basically. And that's how it's presented to us. So it's something we don't have to worry about. Those people are just, they just do that sometimes. I don't know. In reality, this is a group of highly politically literate, intelligent people who know what they want, who have economic demands that our country could never fathom to be class conscious enough to have, right? And they understand effectively how to get the change that they are looking for. And that's what's going on. And, you know, also when we take a look at what they've managed to accomplish so far, they've already got this guy to turn around his position. I'm opening the Reuters look as well. They've already got this guy to turn around his position on a number of things, right? Because they know what works. They're not stupid. They know they are costing the economy $50 million. They know that. Here in the United States, we can't even be motivated to go, we're trying to train people to do a one-day strike. We're trying to get them used to that. These people have been on protest for a month. And they understand that people hate strikes and protests because they work. So what have they managed to accomplish through this, these people? They've managed to get him to scrap the reform on the land, okay. They also have managed to get him to scrap fuel subsidies. He already scrapped fuel subsidies. They got him to, where is it? The new thing. Oh, here it is. To reshuffle his cabinet, slash his salary and that of his ministers, and announce the creation of a council to negotiate with sectors of society. So they've already managed to get these wins. And these people are like, that's still not enough. So we need you out. Like, we need you out of here, right? So I think this is just like very, this is presented so disconnected from the reality of what's happening. And to be a socialist, right, to be a communist, you got to read between all the lines to see what's going on in the news. So we're going to look at the same kind of president, how he's being talked about in this story from October 20th of 2025. Now, this is before they knew that the people would be so unhappy. So this is probably going to be positioned, my guess, as an ideological win, ushering in a promise of capitalism for all. As the country grapples with its worst economic crisis in decades, the subtext being that that's the fault of socialism. That socialism makes you poor, but now this new guy, Rodrigo Paz, is going to make everybody rich with capitalism for all. We know, obviously, that's not true because he did things like cut fuel subsidies that drove up cost of living and made people actually poorer. So back in October, though, this was getting reported as such. Bolivians on Sunday, October 19th, elected a pro-business center-right senator as their new president, ending 2 decades of socialist rule that have left the South American nation deep in economic crisis. With 97% of ballots counted, Rodrigo Paz had 54.5% of the vote compared to 45.4% for his rival, right-wing former interim president Jorge Tuto Quiroga, the Supreme Electoral Tribune said. The news was greeted with joy, music, and fireworks on the streets of La Paz. So this really sounds like an American election. You've got a far-right guy, and then you've got a center-right guy. And that's our Democratic Party versus our Republican Party. So the news was greeted with joy, music, and fireworks on the streets of La Paz. We came to celebrate the victory with a great hope of new direction for Bolivia. Paz, the 58-year-old son of the former president, has vowed a capitalism for all approach to economic reform with decentralization, lower taxes, and fiscal discipline, austerity measures, is how we can interpret that, mixed with continued social spending, but apparently not enough. In his victory address, Paz in Bolivia said Bolivia was reclaiming its place on the international stage. Washington congratulated Paz on his election win, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, famous anti-communist, saying the United States stands ready to partner with Bolivia on shared priorities. He added in a statement that after 2 decades of mismanagement, socialist leadership, President-elect Paz's election makes a transformative opportunity for both nations. He takes over a country that under ex-president Evo Morales took a sharp turn to the left, nationalizing energy resources, breaking ties with Washington, and making alliances with China, Russia, and fellow leftists in Cuba, Venezuela, and elsewhere in Latin America. After the results were announced, Paz's vice presidential running mate, Edmund Lara, made a call for unity and reconciliation after a bitter campaign. While Bolivia is enduring its worst economic crisis in decades, he promised improvements are on the horizon. We must ensure the supply of diesel and gasoline. People are suffering. We need to stabilize the price of basic food and put an end to corruption. Long queues for fuel have become a way of life in Bolivia, with dollars in short supply and annual inflation over 20%. In a first electoral round in August, crisis-weary voters snubbed the movement towards Socialism Party founded by Morales. A new chapter is coming. Enough said with corruption, enough with injustice, structural changes on the way. Now, this reminds me of that old USSR joke. Capitalism did what communism could not, made communism look good, right? And this is the idea that people under socialism have problems. You're not going to snap your fingers and all of a sudden you don't have any problems, all your problems go away. That's not what socialism does. You have problems under socialism, just like anybody. But you erroneously think that your problems are because of socialism and capitalism would fix them. And that is seldom the case. I don't think that is ever the case. And what ends up happening is when people move away from socialist policies into more capitalist policies, things get worse than they could ever have imagined, right? And this is something that's very common. That's very common everywhere. People are like, well, maybe capitalism will fix these problems. And then they get capitalism and they're like, oh, this is fucked up. And this is when I was talking to people in Cuba, the young people who were like, well, maybe capitalism won't be so bad. Maybe it'll end the blockade, blah, blah, blah. And, famously, I've told this story a few times because it was so funny. Oh, shit. It's fork. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. I was talking to that kid who was like, yeah, I'm not an ideologue. Maybe capitalism will be better. Maybe we should just do capitalism because then the U.S. will end the blockade against us and our lives will get easier in Cuba. And I was like, yeah, the blockade's really annoying. I can definitely see that. What kinds of things do you think would get better if you made a transition to capitalism? And he, told me the story. He was like, well, sometimes you go to the doctor because you're sick. You have a fever. And you go to the doctor because you have a fever, and they prescribe you a fever-reducing medication, and then you go to the pharmacy, and they're out of the medication. So you can't even get the medication, And I was like, right, yeah. Yeah, I can see how that's super annoying. Under capitalism, you will not go to the doctor because you have a fever. And he was like, what? And I was like, no, you would never go to the doctor just because you have a fever. You only go to the doctor if you're about to die. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, I'm 40 years old. I've only been to the doctor 5 times in my life. And he was like, 5 times this year? And I was like, no, 5 times in my life. And he was like, I don't understand. And I was like, you can't afford to go to the doctor under capitalism. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you're never going to get any prescription for a fever reducer under capitalism. You're not going to be able to afford to go to the doctor. And he was like you could see him processing it, really. And I was like, yeah, whatever problems you have under socialism, that's not going to go away under capitalism. That's going to get worse. And later on, I was talking to that guy, and somebody else was talking to him too. And she was like, yeah, in the United States, 2/3 of our young people of Gen Z, they want socialism. And he was like, is that real? And I was like, yeah, that's real. She's telling you the truth. Yeah, they want socialism. Yeah, because capitalism is so unbearable and so bad. And you could tell it really made him reconsider things. But this is a common thing people fall into. They think maybe their problems are the result of socialism because the capitalists keep telling them so, right? And the capitalists have control of global media. And they're like, well, maybe all my problems would go away under capitalism. It's like, no. Whatever problems you have, those are not because of socialism, and they are going to get way, way worse under capitalism. I can promise you that, right? You're lucky if Jeff Bezos lets you go to the bathroom for pee-pee. I know exactly. It's like, oh no, our workers pee in bottles because they're not allowed bathroom breaks. Like, what? And sometimes, yeah, you have to use AI to diagnose yourself. You have to order. One time when I was really, really sick and I needed antibiotics, I had to order antibiotics from a pet company online, and I treated my weight like a large horse and forged a prescription for myself to buy horse antibiotics. No, it's a dog. It wasn't a horse. It was a dog. I'm thinking of ketamine. Horse tranquilizers. No. It was a dog. It was dog antibiotics. I literally treated my weight like a large dog. Mm-hmm. Yes. Worker conditions were so bad they had the audacity to start 1-hour delivery. I know, it's crazy. It's so crazy. Yeah, I'm a large dog, in case you were wondering. not the horse tranquilizers. The dog antibiotics. You take the horse tranquilizers to forget about your problems. You take the dog antibiotics to try to cure you of your problems. That's how that goes. Yeah. Not me, though, because I'm too ADHD for recreational drug use to be that effective on me. You heard it here first. Horse first. Okay. So back to this story, which again, optimism. We're looking at this story that came out in October when he was elected. There's an air of optimism about it, right? So they're like, everything's going to get better in Bolivia now because we're going to have capitalism. Well, cut ahead to the future. See ahead to the future 6 months. Oh shit, things are epically fucking worse because of capitalism. So they're talking about kind of the issues they were having with fuel, etc. Does anybody know in the chat the history of blockade, like sanctions against Bolivia, like a timeline? Is anybody familiar with that? I'm going to look that up. That feels relevant to us. I'm getting stuff from the 90s, obviously. Oh, hype train, hype train, hype train. You watched my stream and now you're cable. I know, it happens, yeah. Yay, yay, yay. Thank you for the gifted sub. Everybody. I want to like find it. So also some people though, this is worth noting too. For the election in 2020, regarding recent events in Bolivia, some things are simple. Was it a coup? Yes. On Sunday, November 10th, the commander-in-chief of Bolivia's armed forces, General William Kaliman, publicly told Evo Morales, the constitutionally elected president, that he ought to resign for the good of the country. There is no other name for this kind of thing. Even if Evo had been officially accused of legal wrongdoing, he had not. The procedure of removal is unconstitutional. The resignation took place under an unstated threat of violence. Bolivia's history gives reason to take the threat seriously. Military coups and counter-coups were a decisive feature of political life throughout the 20th century. And considering that the police, 2 days before the general's intervention, had already decided to allow anti-government protesters to commit violence against the homes and family members of supporters of the Movimiento al Socialismo party, to which Evo belongs, MAS, Kaliman's remarks carried weight well beyond a suggestion. Should people with a preference for emancipatory politics support the coup or oppose it? This too is simple. We should only be against it. The meaning of this in practice depends on one's position. Given that I am a U.S. citizen living thousands of miles from La Paz, I venture my opposition should focus on the U.S. role. We're going to switch to map soon, but I think this is a really good context for us to understand this. Whether material or ideological, any support for the coup by the U.S. state is hypocritical, destructive, and all too familiar. So the only way we got this election that put this capitalist in power is basically through threat. It was a coup, but like threat of violence to Evo Morales, right? They were like, if you don't step down, we're going to step you down, babes. And he was like, heard, okay. And then they have this election, and this capitalist gets brought in, and then next thing you know, everybody's like, this is fucked, and our country's falling apart now, right? So that's the context for this, and we're going backwards in time. So that's when we read the current, and now we're going backwards. Boom, 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 like strobe light effect to see how we got here. In reference the concrete activities of organization, we move from definition and position taking to the level of politics. Here, simplicity gives way to murkiness. Much more difficult than to ask whether this was a coup or whether one should support coups are the questions, how did this coup happen and what conditions made it possible? Compare the conditions for this coup to the one against socialist Chilean President Salvador Allende, deposed and likely murdered by CIA-trained military operatives in 1973. His coalition had held executive office for only 3 years, facing a Congress controlled by the opposition. It had been elected by a plurality and faced open hostility from capitalists within the country, from the military, and from the rest of the capitalist world, including, of course, the world's largest superpower, the United States. Now, the case of Allende is an interesting case when we talk about democratic socialism. This idea that you can vote your way into socialism. Allende and many others like him are proof of what happens when you try, right? Of what happens when you try. Bolivia has a long history of socialism. I think we'll get into it now. And the thing I'm looking for that I hope they talk about this, and this is how their economic crisis came about. So, these factions organized to undermine him and create crisis conditions for nearly the entirety of his presidency. Chile was deep in capital-induced economic spiral when the military made its decisive and violent intervention. Now, going from Chile to look at Bolivia, the MAS, which was the Socialist Party under Evo Morales and Alvaro Garcia Linera, on the other hand, was the most successful political force in Bolivia for decades. Starting out as the political instrument of coca grower unions in the country's Chapare region in the late 1990s, it rose to national prominence throughout the mass political insurgencies against neoliberalism from 2000 to 2005, when Evo was first elected. He won that election with an outright majority, a first since the return to civilian rule in 1982, and has done so in 2 more scheduled presidential elections since, in addition to a recall vote, each with nearly a supermajority. The MAS is the only party that has been able to compete consistently in national elections in the last 14 years, and has continuously controlled at least one, often both, of the legislatures. EVO has led the greatest period of economic growth and political stability that the country has ever seen, even while other Latin American economies have stumbled with falling commodity prices. As even critics have noted, his mandate has resulted in massive social welfare gains in healthcare, equality, poverty reduction, and literacy. It has also given voice to the masses of indigenous and campesino people in Bolivia who have been the object of discrimination and exclusion for more than 4 centuries. To understand the coup, then, we have to understand the political crisis in which the seemingly solid ground fell out from under EVO and MAS. The coup was an attempt by some class fractions of Bolivia to put an end to the crisis at the expense of MAS. MAS lacked the strength to resist this outcome. If we fail to understand why, no amount of posturing will prevent this from ever happening again, either in Bolivia or in another situation in which a polarizing champion of radical change might win an election against the wishes of the ruling class. For those distant from Bolivia, this sort of analysis is key to strategizing for internationalist solidarity. How did a crisis emerge to which a coup seemed like the best option in the eyes of the military, which had, for better or worse, a largely positive relationship with the MAS-controlled portions of the state? Why did at least some portion of the population that originally supported EVO or only wanted to see a second round of voting in the election end up demanding he get ousted? And why did some powerful sectors that had in fact benefited from the relative social stability ushered under the MAS decide it was time for a change of course of action by any means necessary? Most immediately, the crisis began with the elections on October 20th. In this election, the winner would need to defeat his or her nearest opponent by 10% or face a runoff. Polls showed EVO baiting his nearest opponent, Carlos Mesa, former president who had in fact been deposed by protests in 2005, by something close to this amount. After a portion of the votes had been counted, indicating that EVO's lead would have been around 10%, there was a one-day break in the poll counting. And according to an analysis by the Center for Economic and Policy Research, this procedure was entirely normal. When the count resumed, EVO's leader over Mesa had widened slightly, which was also predictable given the geographic distribution of which vote tallies had been counted and which had not. Mesa, however, had already declared that he knew there would be a runoff. And so when the count resumed and official results came in showing EVO winning by just over 10%, he demanded a new election, and this ended up getting echoed by various segments of national and international media, by international organizations like the EU and the US-dominated Organization of American States, and by the right-wing forces of power who, for the most part, were situated in regional governments and civic committees. Now, keep note of this. So when we talk about Venezuela, we talk about Maduro, you hear liberals say this stuff. He wasn't even elected. He stole the election. Meanwhile, the election monitoring orgs I have worked with did election monitoring there, right? All election monitors said that the election was fair, except for ones affiliated with the EU and the United States. So this is exactly how elections get stolen. To claim the election was already stolen, and in fact now you need to have a whole new election. And during that time period, of course, the media is spoiling the local residents who might be on the fence against this guy. Look at how corrupt he is. He just tried to steal an election from you. Can you believe it? And now a few people who would have voted for him before might now be like, I can't believe that guy tried to steal our election like that. I'm not going to vote for him again, right? And this is our playbook. This is something we do very, very commonly. So whenever you see the U.S. claim an election was stolen, it was a fraudulent election, just keep in mind this is how we handle things, right? Yeah. So a seemingly predictable outcome in a close race suddenly became the basis for some to declare electoral fraud. Some people who took to the streets were, of course, opposed to EVO and MAS in general. Others may have resented that EVO was running despite losing a 2016 referendum to abolish term limits, which the country's electoral court subsequently found violated EVO's rights. The OAS, a United States-sponsored body and no close friend to Latin America's leftists, volunteered to investigate the fraud claims, and EVO, but not Mesa, agreed to abide by their findings. While the investigation proceeded, protests grew. The leader who urged them on and who pushed them forward demands for resignation rather than a revote, regardless of what the OAS found. And this was a man named Luis Fernando Camacho. A member of an elite family, Camacho was involved in financial and legal consulting, including, as revealed in the Panama Papers, helping private businesses set up tax-dodging offshore accounts. He's never held elected office, but was once the leader of a right-wing regional youth organization, the Union Juvenil Cruceña, from 2002 to 2004. So, all these business guys now are like, this socialist got to step down because he's so corrupt. And they're just like flashing dollar eyes. They're like, we can make money, blah, right? So this is what's going on here. And then, as protest leader Camacho, rich guy in the Panama Papers, eventually outflanked Mesa, the latter continued to call for a new election rather than simply demanding that EVO resigned immediately. So as he starts to get more popular, he's like, you should just resign. Mesa's like, no, we need a new election. Right? So over the last several weeks, supporters of Evo and the Mas have been marching too. And though the New York Times and other English language media outlets have painted the Mas supporters as armed bands terrorizing the innocent anti-Mas protesters, it's more accurate to say that a two-sided political conflict resulted in two-sided political violence. Since no one disputes that Evo won a plurality of the votes, it's unsurprising that the anti-Mas protests were met with counter-protests. On Friday, November 8th, the police, who had not had a strong relationship with Evo, declared that they would not police the protests anymore. Sunday, the OAS issued a report citing irregularities in the election, pointing to, this is again the Americans, pointing to but not providing evidence of questionable paper vote tallies and some lack of technical accountability in the electoral processing. They're just bullshitting. It was no smoking gun, but it was enough for Evo to agree to a new vote. Yet shortly thereafter, the military, whom Evo never called on to police the protests, then suggested that he resign for the good of the country, hence the coup. So that's what got us this way. So, fake election getting stolen, right? And this sounds like any Latin American country. This sounds like any country who elects a guy who's too left-leaning for the United States interests. We get some rich dude there, some business dude there to claim fraud has occurred. It sounds exactly like Venezuela as well, right? This is how it goes. This is our fucking stupid ass playbook. So contradictions. Oop. We've got to switch over to map in a second, but I just want to give us this kind of backing knowledge. I want to see if there's anything economic. So Mas, despite his political advantages, crumbled. Under threat, its officials resigned by the dozens, with Evo and Garcia Linera, including numerous mayors, local functionaries across the country, as well as presidents of both chambers of Congress. This cleared the way for Janine Áñez in the line of succession. While those who remain may well participate in the next elections, the balance of power shifted. Mas has held an exceptional political position, and his electoral machine, as well as the symbolic weight of Evo and its management of the economy, were all factors in its favor. But its once great strength has come apart. A strong coalition of Mas and other autonomous grassroots forces is difficult, owing in part to the Mas's inflexibility and its tactics when dealing with contradictions among the people. The newly emboldened right, which took the initiative in the crisis, may make further gains. So we don't really know what's going on here. But this story was written November of 2019. So that's what got us to this point. Oh, we got raiders. Hi, welcome. We're the raid. Hi. We were just talking about Bolivia and the updates in Bolivia. And then this story from 2 days ago, the right-wing President Paz here took steps towards declaring a state of emergency and sending in the police and the military to crush the anti-government protesters. So protests have triggered shortages of food, fuel, and medication. They're trying to demonize the protesters, etc., etc. So what's going on then in Bolivia, right? Just to recap. They had socialist leadership. And the United States didn't like that. Business guys didn't like that. An election happened. The socialist guy won. And they were like, do a recount though. Maybe he actually didn't. And he was like, fine, fucking do a recount. I don't care. And then a United States-backed election monitoring group stepped in and was like, oh, there was a little bit of weird stuff maybe. And he was like, okay, fine, do another recount then. We can have a re-election, whatever. And then a bunch of right-wing people associated with the military and the police got on TV and were like, we think it's time for you to just step down, actually. He read the writing on the wall, and a bunch of socialists resigned from the government because they thought they would probably be killed. It was a bloodless coup, but it was a coup nonetheless. And then they held a new election where two right-wing guys ran against each other, a far-right guy and a center-right guy. The center-right guy won, the Democrat, if you will, if you're in the United States. He came in promising capitalism for all. He was going to undo all that pesky socialism, and he was going to make Bolivia great again or whatever. And next thing you know, turns out that pesky socialism was what was keeping Bolivia together. Everything's falling apart. The people are pissed off. Remember, the socialist guy won with a majority. So the majority of people supported him to begin with and are pissed that this whole situation even happened. Now everyone's taking to the streets to demand a return to socialism. And the new right-wing president is refusing to step down. The United States is backing him. Brazil is backing him. And he's like, we're just going to send the military in to crush the protesters. So, in summary, this is like exactly how the United States moves. This is our idea of democracy, right? We actually violate your democracy if you democratically elect socialists. Which is why we don't really think you can vote your way out of capitalism. Democratically electing socialists doesn't get you the unity of government you need to ensure shit like this doesn't happen. But whatever. if you democratically elect a socialist, the United States and a bunch of right-wing rich business dudes in that country are going to band together to oust him and install a right-wing government instead, no matter how much the people want it. And the people there do want socialism. Again, he won the election with a majority. Nobody even contested that he won the election with a majority, right? You just downloaded mobile Civ 6. So, yeah, that's what was going on there. And that's our update on Bolivia. So, the people in Bolivia yearn for socialism. And the libbed up new pro-capitalist president is going to crush them with the military and the police, probably, is what's going to happen there. Right. Yes. So there we go. That's it. Let's get into the map. Should we get into the map? Because I do have a transition point from this to the map, which is a question for you all. Which is, should we mark Bolivia as politically divided now because of this? Right? Because right now we've got Bolivia as cucked because of the new president. But the people are pissed. You think they're still cucked? Okay. They're actively, violently resisting imperialism. That's my argument too. Right? I kind of think they're divided right now. They're trying to oust. Right, but if they have a say over the government, I kind of feel like they're divided, because that's the idea. The whole idea is that internally you're so divided you can't really participate in foreign policy in a major way. But if there's a power struggle of the people actively trying to overthrow the government, and because of what happened just in October, they're not fully resisted. Should we wait and see what happens? People pissed. So a country that's divided is like there's an active civil war going on and there's not any one clear-cut source of political power in the country. So they're not able to participate in the global stage whatsoever. They're focused internally, and it's not clear who's in charge, right now. You think, yeah, so a cucked brat, we know who's in charge, we know what's going on, and they, they aren't able to really stand up to the power structure, but once in a while they make their voice heard. Divided is like, we actually don't know who's in charge of that country right now fully. You think, let's wait and see. Okay, let's compromise and we'll wait and see what happens. We'll keep our eyes on Bolivia. Defiant would be more that the government's defiant. That they have a government in place that's like, yo, fuck this shit. But, for Bolivia, it would be cucked still because the government's definitely cucked. Or divided based on how much power we want to give the protesters. Is this bordering on a civil war? What's going on here? Yeah, maybe we'll wait and see. Let's wait and see. Okay, we'll keep it on our radar. And we will get into the country that I have recently learned is not pronounced Lesotho and is pronounced Lesotho. Right? Lesotho? If they maintain economic disruption, I think divided. Yes. Yes. Let's get into Lesotho. All right. There it is. It's a little island in South Africa. It's right there, right in the middle. I know I'm unsure about Venezuela as well. We gotta wait and see what happens with Venezuela. We gotta see what's going on with them. All right. I'm opening our resource docs to talk about it. All right, so they are, I'm just going to tell you this, I'm not going to click over the screen, but just, they're not in the NATO group of buddies. They're not on this NATO Super Friends list, so we've got that out of the way. So I closed that. I'm going to search in the NUD document to see if we're spending money there. We're not spending money there. And we're opening the hyper-imperialism doc. A monarchy. Okay, interesting. Computer. Okay, there we are. Hey. Okay. Load, please. Okay, here we go. So they were a UK colony that got their independence in 1966, and they are not on a U.S. sanctions list. They have no history of U.S. military intervention, and they have no U.S. bases. They voted yes to end the Gaza ceasefire, or on the Gaza ceasefire, and they voted yes on Russia withdrawal. Very interesting. So let's see what's going on with them in the news. We're going to look at all their relationships with the key power players. Let's see what's up. Oh, yeah, we got nothing in it. No money being spent there. All right. News. 1 month ago, water exports. Armenia and Lesotho have established diplomatic relations. That's interesting. Something about the war in Ukraine again. Putin received credentials from the ambassadors of the Kingdom of Lesotho. It is a kingdom. It is a monarchy. Yes, yes, yes. Russia in Africa, according to the Carnegie Endowment. They have a long time standing relationship with Russia, Arnalda says. Well, I wish I could show you guys what she actually looks like right now. She is like, there's a half flopped over mattress. I bet I can show you. Hold on. There's a half flopped over mattress. And hold on. Okay, let's see. Oh my god, it's working. Oh my god. Okay, look, I can show you. Hold on. Do you see? Do you see what Zay is doing? She is snuggled up on this mattress that is half in the hallway, half in my office that we need to take outside. And she's made it her bed. And I wish I could zoom in to like show you her little face, but she looks so snuggly and so cute. It's insane. Okay, anyway, that's that. I got it to connect to my phone. Very cool. I know, she looks like so precious. She's like all snuggly up there. I don't know. It's so cute. Anyway. No, that's not the TikTok mattress. The TikTok mattress is on my bed. That's my partner's old mattress, which was hurting my back super, super bad, which is why I was like, I need a mattress topper at least. I thought it was a topper. They sent me a whole freaking mattress. So now we're like, what do we do with the old mattress? Because the old mattress isn't bad. So we have to like take it to the garage, but it's a boneless mattress. It's like a bamboo soft mattress. So it's like hard to take to the garage. And so we just haven't done it yet. We need to. We haven't done it since Sunday. It's been a whole week. I know, crazy. But yeah. So much happening. All right. So Lesotho Bridge aims to help double water exports to South Africa. All right. That's their neighbor. That makes sense. Armenia and Lesotho established diplomatic relations. Okay, Armenia. 1 year of war against Ukraine. Acting together will ensure international law will prevail. Are they... The designation. Okay. Delegation of the European Union to the Kingdom of Lesotho. What does this have to do with Lesotho, though? I don't understand. This is about Ukraine. This doesn't have to do anything with it. No. Okay. Putin receives credentials from the ambassadors of Greece, Kazakhstan, South Korea, Afghanistan, Romania, and Lesotho. Okay. A mattress. But no, it's Donbass? Is it really? Are they just telling... I think they are. You should definitely request free samples. Everybody should request free samples. Okay. Tackling similar tasks. Russia wants to see Afghanistan become an independent, prospering state. All right. South Korea... Russia favored a deeper cooperation between North and South Korea. Of course they did. Good for them. Okay. Russia and Greece are interested in turning the Balkans and East Mediterranean into a region of stability. Okay. You know, they do be liking capitalism in Russia. That's the thing. He appreciated Russia's good relations with the Kingdom of Lesotho, which checks out with what the one chatter said about how they have a long-standing history. Examining Moscow's Influence and limits. No Carnegie Institute. Okay. With the notable exceptions of Botswana and Lesotho, southern African states have sent high-ranking officials to Russia for bilateral engagement or multilateral conferences on at least 15 occasions since February 2022. So not Lesotho. All right, what else we got going on here? China. All right, so they are interested in having a deeper connection with China because of the United States changing trade policies. The USA is really fucking ourselves over all this trade shit, right? Yeah, the war in Ukraine is actually the war in Donbass, and it always sort of has been. Yeah. Also, the independent provinces, what is the name they've chosen for themselves? Like Luhansk and Donetsk? Because they proposed independence as one country with two republics, right? Not as two different countries. I just realized that today. I was like, we never see them referred to as the country they have chosen for themselves. There's a flag, right? Okay, 1980, diplomatic relations are all were established between Lesotho and the Soviet Union. Setting center for, oh, cool, okay. It's LPR and DPR, but are they one country or are they two countries? I thought it was one country with two provinces. Donetsk People's Republic. Okay. Donetsk People's, well, no, that's because that's just the one region. LPR, DPR. I was trying to think about this. I'm like, don't they have like one, or are they literally like, we're two countries now? I'm not sure. Yeah, everyone wanted to be led into Russia. I mean, hey, I would want to be led into Russia in that situation. Are you kidding? I don't want soccer hooligans running through my streets beating up grandmas on my block. Russia, save me. Ugh, horrible. They wanted to join Russia, but Russia was like, no, but if you become your own country, we'll back you. So they're like, okay, fine, we'll become our own country. Well, first, actually, they voted to secede. And they were like, we'll be independent, and then we'll ask to join Russia. And that was the order of operations. And then Russia was like, no, ball bounced back. We can't take you in, but we'll support you being your own thing. And then they're like, oh, okay, we'll do that. Yeah. For Oblasts, Weepcore. Yeah. I know this is off topic a little bit, but I've just been thinking about this. Oh, so then the war broke out, and then they were like, okay, fine, we'll let you in, I guess. Donetsk, Kherson, Luhansk. Okay, yeah. So much of Luhansk and Donetsk had been controlled by pro-Russian separatist independent. They declared independence in 2014. Yes. It's interesting. North Korea recognized it. They were like, yeah, that's yours. Okay, so then I guess during the course of the war, Russia was like, okay, fine, we will let you in. And you can just be part of us. But I kind of thought that they didn't. That like it's being positioned like Russia is annexing it, but Russia's like, we don't want this territory. They're literally independent. I thought that's what would happen. You know? Proclamations of independence. Yes. Okay, well, whatever. We'll get into that some other time. That's not Lesotho related content. I'm just curious. You believe they joined the Russian Federation? Oh, okay. Maybe they did. Yeah. They declared independence first, and then okay. Very interesting. The buffer states, basically, so they couldn't park NATO missiles like right on the USSR's borders, probably. Yeah. Okay, so China and Lesotho have agreed to deepen cooperation across key sectors, following an official visit by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, reaffirming strong bilateral ties and a shared commitment to development. Both sides commended the progress achieved under the China-Africa Cooperation Framework, which has played a significant role in supporting Lesotho's modernization efforts in agriculture, infrastructure, healthcare, and green energy. Okay, so they're trying to do increased trade with China. And this is from 2026. This is reset. The Prime Minister reaffirms a deeper cooperation with China for mutual benefit. They're like, we're going to keep growing stronger in the upcoming times. Okay, now let's see what's going on. Not maps. Why would I want map? No, news. I'm ding dong brain. I'm like, map. We're on map. Israel deepens Africa ties, but like, okay, but what about Okay. Israel's Allies Foundation launches 6 new caucuses in Africa, including in Lesotho. It's a faith-based advocacy group. Okay, that doesn't mean anything about Lesotho. Oh, what is happening here? This is interesting. Lesotho Plan. The dictatorship in Lesotho was one of 5 countries on the African continent that did not cut ties with Israel in 1973. Not looking great. Foreign ministry documents reveal the compensation it received. Training death squads, eliminating the opposition, and senior IDF officials who became state-sponsored arms terrorists. Okay. So, in the 70s and 80s, this is saying they were basically an Israeli proxy state. But this is from the 80s. This isn't now. This doesn't help us now. Oh, Israel and Somaliland. What does that have to do with Lesotho, though? And they have a denim industry that's unraveled under tariffs. Huh. 30 African countries severed their diplomatic relations with Israel in 1972, except Lesotho. Yeah. Yeah, let's see what's up with them in Palestine. I don't really have much. Huh. Okay, and then Trump in the news. Let's see. Lesotho's garment workers on the front line of Trump's tariffs. They make jeans, apparently, and they're like, this is fucked. So they got to work with China. No, my orgs don't often. I have, though. My org has met in churches before. I've probably done it twice. Yeah, for special things. A third of those workers make clothes for the U.S., including jeans for Levi's. I used to be a designer at Levi's. Lennon Smash, I think so. Yeah, I have to double check. I was like, just to be clear, this is the picture we want to do. So I just have to go follow up on it. Yeah, I'm gonna be drawing you, not in a creepy way, Lennon Smash. I'm gonna be drawing you. Okay, Trump. Okay, wait. Reciprocal tariffs based on the difference between what a country exported to and imported from the U.S. So, in 2024. Lesotho imported 2.8 million, but exported 237 million. They don't have money like that. They can't buy that shit. They would have got a 50% tariff. And then Trump claimed nobody had ever heard of Lesotho. So now they're like, China, hey China, do you want to buy jeans? That's what's going on. Okay. So they're switching up their alliances, it looks like. So it looks like they're a bratty cuck right now. This is crazy. This is all about the jeans thing. The jeans thing is a really big deal. Okay. I really think they're cucked brat. I think they're maybe cucked brat right now. I wonder if they have like USAID aid or here we go. What USAID cuts did to Lesotho. They're receiving a ton of money, I guess. Go away. Mountainous kingdom that sits in the middle of South Africa has 2 million inhabitants. It's too small. $80 million to promote LGBTQ plus in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of, is what Trump said. One transcript notes that at that point, there was laughter in the room. Wow. Okay. Yeah. These words felt not like a sentence of neglect, but of abandonment. HIV and AIDS is one of the country's most serious public health challenges, threatening not only the health of Lesotho, but also the country's overall development. According to UN AIDS, by 2016, Lesotho had the second highest HIV prevalence rate in the world, with approximately 25% of adults living with HIV. That's crazy. Over 240,000 people there rely on antiretroviral I got there. Antiretroviral therapy. I sounded it out because I can read. Antiretroviral therapy. Are you guys proud of me? And HIV and tuberculosis remaining the leading cause of death. According to a 2022 UN AIDS report, more than 1 in 5 people aged 15 to 49 are HIV positive. Hooked on phonics worked for me. That's a very millennial thing that you guys might not remember. But when we were children, that was everywhere. That would have hit 20 years ago. Okay, so it doesn't seem like they're doing enough to be cucked other than pursuing trade relationships with China. You live 386 miles from there, Melme says. Wow. Okay. So what do we think? It's like they're not evil enough to be Poland derogatory. They definitely don't seem to be participating that much, but that's probably because they're poor. That means they kind of probably are just at whims of the major powers. I don't know if trade with China is brat either, because like everybody trades with China. The United States trades with China. That's not super brat, right? Do you think just cucked? I kind of think they're just cucked, but it's like sad, you know? It's sad. They're not like, I don't know. Yeah, I think cucked. I think they're cucked. But it's like a soft cucked because it's like, I don't even think, they're just not very involved, you know? They're just doing their thing down there. They got a king. They're making jeans. They're like, what happened? The leader of the most powerful country in the world said, what about us? What? And then a quarter of them have AIDS. It's horrible. It's fucked up. Yeah, they seem pretty neutral. Making Levi's for the global north, getting AIDS, and getting told they don't matter in the world. And they got a king. So I'm going to put them as cucked just because they don't have a lot of options. They don't have a lot of power. Okay, Maurer says this is about 350 million in 2024, 50 million in 2025. Okay, so this is the global assistance that they've received. I'm going to bookmark this one too. Oh, yeah, this is good. Okay, so this is how much money they received in 2024, and then 2025, only 41 million from all agencies. Epidemic control, global AIDS, USAID. Yes, okay. Peace Corps, okay. Top partners, international redacted. Is this actually the name of it? Is it actually international redacted? Is that a name? No, it actually is just an international thing that's redacted. Okay. What, really? Interesting. Okay, interesting. It's very interesting. What is this? What are you? I don't understand. I'm too literal for this. Glomag. No. Yeah, I think they just don't say the name of it. I think it literally is just a redacted. They could have positioned this a little differently. You also have high numbers of people with HIV here in South Africa. Interesting, Mome. Thank you for sharing that. CIA, seriously. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty confident in us positioning Lesotho as cucked. Now, here's what's going on. Next up on the map, we have these countries. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a byproduct of the American educational system. I don't know what these countries are. I know some of you do. We can fill these countries in together. There's also these. We didn't do this. What's this? I don't know. We got to figure that out. So maybe we got to do... Yeah, I think we got to do all the tiny little islands. Also, what's this? What's that? Or we could do some of the big ones and we could save all the tiny islands for the end. Because look, I think there's some tiny islands we missed over here as well. Right? Somewhere. We missed them somewhere. I'm not crazy. They do exist somewhere. So either tomorrow we could move on here Or we could, and then like just crank out the tiny islands maybe all in a day. Yeah, and then we'll just hunt for all of them, you know? And that could even be its own special day. Tiny Island Day at the end. Oh, not tomorrow, I guess Monday. Many tiny islands. Oh, the U.S. sent a ton of money to Andorra because they thought it was a poor African country? No, but that is really funny, and I am fascinated with Andorra. I don't know if you guys know much about Andorra. I'm obsessed with Andorra. I really wanted to go to Andorra last time I was in Spain. It's like a small nation. I like these like little micro nations. These are very interesting to me. But it basically only exists as like a spa and like a ski resort town. So they're not poor. They're like rich Europeans, I guess. Andorra disrespect. Yeah, it's really fucking funny though. But the thing to do in Andorra is you literally just go to this giant fucking spa. I'm going to show you this before we end our segment today. Not Andorra, Spain. They are their own country. They are not Spain. Okay? It's this place, Chaldea Spas. So when you're like, what do I do in Andorra? It's either you go skiing or you literally go to this giant spa that's deranged. And they put like oranges in the water. I need pictures. I need fucking pictures. Okay, like the spa, like where do I find pictures of this? And it's all like built out in these, no, I just want to see pictures of you. We're gonna look at photos. Okay, yes, look at this. It's like space spa. Look at this. Poop sock flavored jewel pod, so cool. And this is what you do. You just go in this giant indoor dome that's a spa, and that's like all they've got for you. This is what they have to offer you in Andorra, Spain. All of Andorra, or not even Spain, its own country. All of Andorra, in between Spain and France, is basically skiing and this one spa, and that's it. That's how small this place is. Chaldea is not what it used to be. Look at it. Look at it. It's crazy. Oh, you got some theme built out rooms. It's like We Spa. More. But more. And they speak Catalan. Anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to send you to Larry for our final stream of the week, chat. Fork's yelling. I'm tired. I got to do a day of work still. I got to go pick up my car and take Fork to the vet. I forgot about that. I got to do that shit ASAP. So, I'll see you guys Monday. Thank you for a wonderful stream week, as usual. I am going to miss you all. Tell me what Fork's saying. I got no clue. I'm getting the raid ready. Whoop, whoop. It's been so nice. Isn't it nice here? I like it here. I like us. Chat, I like us. I'm into it. I'm into us. I think everybody's ready. Oh, you're all ready to go. I'm sending you off. Until next week.